the point-to-point annual on courses. I've been to all the, I think it's currently 59 courses in England and Scotland and Wales, in other words the UK mainland for the professional side of racing. Probably only been to about a dozen or so point-to-point courses. The two you mentioned, I haven't been to either of them, so it'll be guesswork there. We'll see if Jonathan knows.
Porter in. Attempted York and really well dug out by Steve Patterson as well. He's going to pick up a single down to long leg. Takes Yorkshire onto 122 for 7, Patterson onto 3, the lead onto 2. I've got to say, no, I am clueless in terms of what's unusual about Cherrybrook or Kilworthy.
So do come back to us on that, John, and we'd be delighted to hear what the answer is. As I say, I think the different courses, one of the wonderful things about Britain is the variety. Nearly all American tracks all go anti-clockwise and are dreary because they're all the same.
Short ball pulled by Maharaj, and it's pulled for 4 well in front of square. There is a man out at deep backward square leg, but nobody through mid-wicket, which is where the ball went into the Felstead school stand. A couple of bounces and crash into the boards, and so it is now 126 for 7, Maharaj 35, and the lead half a dozen.
And one of the great attractions, not just of racing and its many different courses, but cricket grounds and so on, is the wonderful eccentricity and individual characteristics of many of the venues where the sport takes place.
So Porter begins again. Short ball again at Maharaj. This time he chooses to duck underneath it. There's a lingering look from the bowler, who's still eyeballing the South African, but he's unruffled by that. And at the end of the over, 126 for 7.
Now then, one for you here, Jonathan, because Lily's come back. Lily from Malton in Yorkshire. She says Yorkshire have been outplayed by Essex. The only positive is Matt Fisher being back in the team. I like the batting of Kesh Maharaj, so in fact there's a second positive. But she says, and here's where I think we can have the great man himself on board, what would Geoffrey Boycott say about Yorkshire's performance?
Well, I think the batting leaves a fair bit to be desired in this second innings. It's not the greatest batting performance, but they're still out there fighting. But they've got some determination. I don't know. I'm not a very good Boycott impressionist, as you can tell. Harmer in, and Steve Patterson playing cricket out there.
Well, that he certainly does refer to cricket. Yes, it reminds me of a guy who did your job in a manner of speaking. I'll come back to that because we're in the middle of Harmer's over.
Here he is again. Patterson blocks into the offside, no run. And bearing in mind that Geoffrey got 100, as we referred to the other day, in the first ever game here between these two sides. Not the first ever game here, but the first game between the two sides here. He'd probably say something about sticks of rhubarb on his grandma.
Well, he played at the Garrison Ground in Colchester on 2 occasions and got a double 100 each time.
Harmer in, and with a man dispatched at silly mid off, Patterson turns this the other way. No run. Brown doing the fielding. So Simon Harmer comes in again, passes umpire Bailey, and that causes silly mid-on Ryan Tenderscarter to flinch, because Patterson gave it the full face of the blade, didn't quite get it right, but got a single for it through the covers. 4 to him, 127 for 7.
And he was only out for one of those double centuries at the Garrison Ground in Colchester around about 1970, because Sam Cook was the umpire, and Robin Hobbs, who's been on the ground watching this game, carrying on now, was playing in the game, and he bowled a leg spinner which pitched outside leg stump, and rather shamefully appealed. We'll come back to that.
Because Harmer, who switched to round the wicket, has been hit through the onside by Maharaj. He's going to get a single for it.
And Sam Cook, despite the ball pitching outside leg, gave the great man out. Robin Hobbs said to him subsequently, interesting decision, Sam. Come back to that.
Harmer into Patterson, who has a swish at this wide of off stump. No run.
And Sam replied, Robin Hobbs had said to him, interesting decision. He said, I've seen quite enough of that gentleman for one day. and Boycott was sent on his way. It took a long time to get himself out of the arena, but a brilliant player, and could have still made a great number of runs, as he showed in the Lord's final once against Surrey. You know, when runs were needed quickly, he played the most sparkling innings, and the reason he played as he did was he figured the hook shot in particular was, you know, getting him out too often, and so he cut out that and any shots that he felt were likely to cause his dismissal. So okay, he would be slow, but he'd be incredibly difficult to dismiss. And 128 for 7 up on the board at the moment. So going back, thanks Lily for your email there, and I believe we've got at least one more that's come, in fact more than one, but John Logan comes back. Oh sorry, you've already read John Logan's one, because that was the one about the pronunciation of Honeycutt, and we look forward to John telling us about what the two courses had in common that were unusual. Andrew Kozer also comes back. He says, great news to hear Essex legends James Foster is joining Glamorgan as a consultant for T20 Blast. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, James, absolutely one of the greatest wicket keepers I've ever seen, and delighted that he's still around.
Porter into Maharaj, who runs it through point, and he's going to pick up a single. Andrew Cozier, any relation to Tony Cozier?
Not as far as I know. I think probably maybe spelt differently as well, but
I did once meet Tony, just the once.
Yeah.
On a tour in Barbados.
Absolute legend, West Indies cricket commentating, Tony Cozier. Sadly no longer with us, but terrific commentator.
So Jamie Porter from the far end, the Hayes close end, pushed back up the pitch by Yorkshire skipper Steve Patterson, and there is no run.
Yes, I mean, James Foster, personally I don't like the position of wicket-keeper to operate as captain. I think you get too detached, and every time you want to have a word with the bowler, you've got to go all the way down the far end and come back. So he didn't have the most successful times as captain, but wicket-keeper, batsman, absolutely fabulous career with Essex.
Porter in, edged and caught by Sir Alistair Cook at first slip. Steve Patterson has gone, and he's gone for 4 off 31 deliveries, and that means that Yorkshire are now 129 for 8.
Yes, he offered obdurate resistance, but that ball just moved away sufficiently for it to nibble the edge, and it was caught low down by Cook, but he was never going to drop it. Cook has taken a mountain of catches in that position for club and country, and that was one of the easier ones, because although it was low down, it took quite a while to reach it. It didn't absolutely fly off the bat. And 129 for 8 as Porter picks up his just looking second wicket of the innings. There have been 3 each for Porter and Harmer, and now 2 for 3 each for Siddle and Harmer, 2 for Porter, we'll get that right. And so 129 for 8 means that Yorkshire currently lead by just the 9 runs. Kesh Maharaj has played very well, and is, as I said in the first innings, he was going along very nicely, and then suddenly, instead of doing what he had been doing and picking the right ball to attack, he suddenly started having a go at every ball, and his demise came about 4 balls later. So hopefully from Yorkshire's point of view, he'll learn from that for this second innings. And coming out to the crease now is Ben Code, and he too has proved as recently as the match at Scarborough just what an asset he is in the lower order as a batsman. He was involved in a 50-run last wicket partnership up at Scarborough. I didn't see it, but I was following the game reasonably closely from Chelmsford, and it really, I think, turned the match round, even though the margin of victory was over 100 in the end, and you can say, well, 50 didn't account for the win, but I think it shifted the balance of power in the game, and Ben Code played extremely well as he faces now Porter's in, bowls to him, edged, and probably may not quite have reached Cook, although I just had the feeling that was a drop, in fact, from Cook there. It came much faster off the bat, and no, I'm getting the word from Jonathan, who's a little wider than I am at the other side of the box. It just hit the ground as he went to catch it, so my apologies to Sir Alistair there for taking the name of a Knight of the Realm in vain, but it wasn't quite a catch, and one thing's for sure, you don't get the chance in slip catching to dive forward and catch these things as Porter's in. Bowls to Code, and this one keeps low, would have gone down leg side, but he gets a ball on leg stump and plays it into the onside. 129 for 8. 37 to Kesh Maharaj, who has a great deal to do with the fact that Essex will have to bat again. We're now going to get 2 slips becoming 3 as Tom Wesley is taken out of the point region to stand at third slip alongside Sir Alistair at first and Simon Harmer at second. Tenderskata now, he turns up absolutely everywhere in the course of an innings. He's just in front of the pavilion on the backward point boundary. Porter hastens in again from his favourite Hayes close end. Oh, and how that didn't clean out Ben Code's off stump is a matter for conjecture. It narrowly passes it, and applause for a wicket taking over from Porter, and he might easily have had 2, but there just wasn't quite the carry on Ben Code's first delivery that bounced just as Alistair was trying to get hands underneath it, but not a chance. So 129 for 8. Jonathan returns to us after doing one of his many updates for the BBC Yorkshire radio stations, and we'll now resume the commentary again. Simon Harmer to continue inevitably from the river end, and well, you would think from if you were a neutral commentator or pundit or just spectator here, you'd be saying, well, the result is inevitable, it's just a question of time, which is how Istanbul Steve, one of our multi-mailers, always signs himself off, and it looks as if he is going to be proved right here, because it will take Kesh Maharaj's already very valiant 37 to probably become something like 137 if Yorkshire are to pull off a sensational victory here.
And he's on strike with Harmer. From this to river end, round the wicket and smash straight to us. Catch, Paul, because that's rattled off the railings just below, feet below our commentary position, heading in the direction of Paul Newton, sat to my left. 6 runs to Maharaj. Dick has dashed out late as ever to try and make the catch. 43 now to Maharaj, 135 for 8. Great reactions there, Dick. Glad you're not at slip. Harmer has the ball back with a bit of white paint on, no doubt, and Maharaj has got right onto this and looks like he's going to be caught on the mid-wicket boundary. He isn't. Unbelievable. Goodness me, that was an absolute sitter for Peter Siddle, is it?
It is.
He got right underneath it. Everything was still and in position, settled, ready to take the catch, and dropped it over his shoulder, and it's gone for 4.
He seemed to have caught it, seemed to have clasped his hands round it, but there was nothing in them when he looked down.
So 47 now to Maharaj, and Harmer throws him a wide one. Not as wide as the one we were calling a wide that wasn't given before lunch, but not dissimilar in its trajectory really. 3 or 4 inches closer to the batsman, who didn't want to play, but he'll have a go at this one, and he smashed this for 6 over long on. Kesh Maharaj does have a touch of the agricultural about those, but he got his front foot out of the way, gave himself a bit of room, and he has a first 50 for the White Rose in what is ultimately going to be, unless something miraculous happens here of course, a losing cause. It is Maharaj's 9th first class 50 to go with a couple of centuries, and it's taken him just 46 balls to bring it up, so a bit of a positive from a Yorkshire perspective as Harmer is in. Maharaj runs it out into the offside. They take a quick single here. Patterson was struggling to get in. Not Patterson, Code. Patterson was definitely struggling to get in because he's in the pavilion. Code was struggling to get in if it had been a direct hit, but he got home. So 54 now Maharaj, 146 for 8, a lead of 26.
And if Yorkshire do pull off the impossible here, well, that drop from Peter Siddle when Maharaj was on 43 will be pretty telling.
Look forward to listening to the interview. Here is Harmer round the wicket, slants that across. Code outside the off stump, no run. He kicks the ground, Simon Harmer, in frustration because he bowled for it, he got it, and then his fielder didn't quite provide the full amount of support. John Logan's mailed in again. He says, hi Jonathan Paul, and the very early arriving Dick D, unless the ball is heading towards the commentary box, and then Dick, unfortunately, was not the most mobile of fielders on that occasion. He says Yorkshire have been outplayed by, I'm being kind there of course, Dick, Yorkshire have been outplayed, downright slow to be honest. Yorkshire have been outplayed by Essex, one of the only positives in the match for the Tykes is the return of Matthew Fisher. Unfortunately probably won't get much of a chance, if any, of a second innings bowl. In fact, this is a previous email that's come back again, isn't it? We've done this one already, John.
But he does tell us what the answer to his question was.
Does he? Right, okay, so, my apologies.
Yeah, we'll come to that after this ball.
I thought it was just maybe the send button had been pressed a second time. Here's Porter into Maharaj, who tries to flick that away down to fine leg, but Wheater is up to the job of cleaning up the mess behind.
So John says, hi JD, Paul and Dick. I had also visited all the 59 UK racecourses, including the now closed Folkestone, but I believe there are now 60 as Fosslas and Chelmsford, as was Great Leys. I haven't visited yet. The 120 courses I mentioned are point-to-point courses from Friars Hoff to Weybridge. More of that in a moment.
As Porter is in again, Maharaj something on it this time, down to fine leg, where Patel will field, and they settle on 155 Maharaj, 147 for 8 Yorkshire.
And then he comes to the answer to his question, what is unusual about the point-to-point courses Cherrybrook and Kilworthy? Answer, they were separate two point-to-point courses which had joined each other and shared some fences, e.g. Cherrybrook's 4th was Kilworthy's 8th, etc. Kilworthy has since closed. Well, I didn't know that. Thank you very much indeed, John. A man after my own heart. Having visited, well, we can argue about the odd two missing there, but we pretty much got them covered between us, John.
So in comes Porter to Code, who pushes her into the offside, and there is no run.
In fact, in just under a month's time, John, I'm going back to the course because it's the longest ago since I visited it, and that is Ayr, which I last went to in 1970. So this is almost going to be 50 years later, and if I can still keep going, I'm due to appear there on the first Monday in fact it's not the first Monday in August, it will be July the 29th.
Here comes Porter again to Code, who gets caught in the unmentionables or thereabouts. Not quite, I don't think, but yeah, he's rubbing just the inside of his thigh pad in actual fact. Might have something yellow developing over the next day or two.
Current lead for Yorkshire, 27. We had that drop when the score was, I think, around about 136. And both these batsmen are well capable of extending Yorkshire's lead at least by 2 or 3 fold. So Essex might yet rue the dropping of Maharaj.
Porter in. Code thrashes that away through the covers towards the pavilion and picks up 4. It was aerial for a while, but split the gap between the two fielders. So Yorkshire have avoided the ignominy of their worst, the lowest score of the season in Championship cricket. That was 148 down at Guildford, and have moved on to 150.
Well, there was little foot movement there, but there didn't need to be really. It sped to the boundary through the covers, and the Yorkshire bring up their 150, 151 for 8. Lilly comes back again. Afternoon, Jonathan, Paul and Dick. Kesh Maharaj batting well. Good half-century by him. Ben Code can bat after his 48 at Scarborough last week. And she says, I loved Jonathan's Geoffrey Boycott impression. I'm enjoying the commentary.
Not sure. It's a very good Geoffrey Boycott impression, I've got to say. Repeating what I said earlier, but I've heard many, many better ones. David Lloyd's is a super Geoffrey Boycott impression. No, it's Fred Truman that... yeah, it does Fred Truman really well, doesn't he? Bumble. The tweets coming in. Or in fact, no, they're just retweets of old stuff, but it's at Jonathan Doidge or at BBC Essex Sport. BBC West Yorkshire Sport at gmail.com. Simon Harmer continues to get through the overs. He's bowled 18 overs, 7 maidens, 3 for 48 in this second innings to go with the 5 for he took in the first. He continues from this to river end then. And that's a thickish outside edge from Ben Code down towards third man. Ball going to roll away towards the boundary, but Patel cuts it off. They get back for 2. I've not kept my eye on the clock, and in fact should be stepping out for Dick to come back in.
Yeah, he'll come in at the end of the over.
So Maharaj back on strike. Looks like there may be minor adjustments made to the field, but still got a leg slip and a regulation slip. Plenty of gaps for Code to have a go at here, for Maharaj even to have a go at, and he has a big swipe at this one. Got a thickish inside edge, past leg slip, and it's raced away down through fine leg for 4 more. So again, the Yorkshire tail having a little bit of fun here, as they have done on numerous occasions this season. And Kesh Maharaj with 61, maybe just causing a little bit of embarrassment for 1 or 2 of the batsmen, but then different game I suppose at the moment, and that pressure that they were under earlier is maybe not the same feeling out there either.
No, I think you're absolutely right. When you're a lower order batsman, you can bat with a bit more freedom. You're not going to be judged as harshly if you get out playing a daft shot, and I think that's what's happening up and down the country. There are lots of late order rallies after a collapse of the top order.
Last ball was a dot, and here's Maharaj going big again, and he smashed that one miles away over the top onto the pavilion, balcony, the top balcony of the pavilion, for 6. So Harmer going for 1 or 2 here, and he's going to be, I think the modern parlance is spewing, because of the drop catch by Peter Siddle over in that general direction a couple of overs ago.
Well, he's already got half as many again as a result of the drop catch. That went for 4, so it was not only dropped, but it went over the boundary. Before the over ended, in which he was dropped, he hit a 6. And here's another one, and he's got that 4 off the thick inside edge earlier this over, so he's rocketed on to 67, and all of a sudden the Yorkshire lead has grown to 43. But I was just thinking what you started to say as well at the same time. Great minds think alike, Jonathan, and that is that it is so much easier for batsmen, as we saw with Aaron Beard for Essex yesterday, who sort of come in at sort of typically number 10 or number 8 to show what they can do, because they aren't under the same pressure to score runs in the first place, plus the fact the ball is getting older, the bowlers are getting more tired. And we were only saying yesterday on several occasions, an article I was quoting in the Times only 2 or 3 days ago, that in previous times, if you could have a position in the batting order and you fancied yourself as a batsman, you'd always go for 1, 2 or 3. But now, given the same choice, you wouldn't, because this is where the ball's moving around, early wickets go down to the new ball, and you choose 4, 5, 6 or 7.
Yeah, the Maharaj, well, I'd said on a couple of occasions, an agricultural looking stroke. That, although it was swung over mid-wicket, was a proper get your foot out of the way, and this is going. It looked a more orthodox pull over mid-wicket, no doubt, and he middled it.
He's a slightly built man, but boy, can he give the ball a good whack. You know, he can. Well, I think of all I never hit a 6 in all the cricket I played. Just wasn't strong enough, and this guy with very little effort can just drop it straight over the other side of the river.
So here comes Harmer around the wicket, and off his legs, Maharaj works it nicely down to a deep backward square leg, where it's turned by Siddle, and they pick up 1 more.
The closest I ever got to the big hit was at Archbishop Holgate School in York, and the staff of the school I was at played them one day, and I thought I'd done it. I hit the bowler back over his head, went a long way up in the air, and dropped agonisingly about a foot short of the straight boundary.
Wow, hadn't hit a 6 though.
No.
I'm amazed. Harmer in over the wicket. Code just works that round backward of square, and it's the end of Harmer's over. He's now bowled 19, 7 maidens, 3 for 61. So not particularly expensive still, just 3.2 runs per over. Porter at the other end, 17 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 50, 164 for 8. They lead by 44. Goodbye from me for now.
Yes, a stinging rebuke as you make your way out here, Jonathan. Stuart McArdle comes back. Of your Geoffrey Boycott impression, sounded more like Michael Parkinson from the same neck of the woods. Thanks very much, Stuart. And Dick Davis will now occupy the seat, formerly occupied by Jonathan Deutsch, alias Eddie Waring et al. 164 for 8, 44 in front now, and a poor shot from the first ball of a new Porter over. It was wide, and without much foot movement, Maharaj just drove at the ball, could easily have edged it through. We're down to one slip now, he being Sir Alistair, as this cameo, at the moment it may turn out to be more than a cameo from Maharaj. He was going along pretty nicely in the first innings. He's got nearly 100 runs in the match now. 164 for 8, Porter Hayes close end, still thoroughly cloudy overhead. Porter bowls, and Maharaj has whacked Porter back over his head. And unlike my effort at Archbishop Holgate, this really has gone for 6. And that must be about the 5th 6 he's hit. He's in tremendous form here. 74 to Maharaj, and the score up to 170 for 8, and the lead now 50, Dick.
Yep, and immediately they know they're not going to get that ball back from the back gardens of the properties in Hayes Close End, so yet again there's the ceremony of the balls.
And indeed, that has been almost now, it's becoming a very regular occurrence that the ceremony of the balls is performed with ever-increasing frequency. They've alighted on a suitable replacement, and once again, I'd just like to pass on a message, because we get different listeners at different times. Paul Jocelyn, producer of the Around the Wicket programme on BBC Essex on a Saturday afternoon, is doing a special programme to commemorate the 40th anniversary of Essex's first triumphs in 1979 in the Benson Hedges and the Championship, as Porter comes in and bowls again to Maharaj. That almost gets under his back, but he keeps it out well. They've taken one, it's squirted out to square leg, he's back for a second and will make it comfortably, but the throw goes to the bowler's end. Wasn't as comfortable for Ben Code, but he's safely home. 172 for 8, the lead up to 52. Listeners, if any of you have any memories you'd like to share of those 1979 triumphs or the lead up to them, please email at the following address: essex.sport@bbc.co.uk, essex.sport@bbc.co.uk, and Paul Jocelyn will be delighted to hear from you. Porter's in again past umpire Rob Bailey. Pulls to Maharaj, bouncer, and he spots it immediately and just slightly bends the knees, and his head slightly goes down in consequence, and the score remains at 172 for 8, and this is quite a riposte from Maharaj here.
Certainly is, yes. It's just beginning to get a little bit an area of concern, you'd have thought, for Essex. They won't want to chase too many in the final innings.
We've seen them bowled out pretty cheaply here in our time, Dick and I, for 20 once against Lancashire. Wasn't that long ago. Porter's in bowls, and Maharaj at least one more run, dabs the ball down, and third man comes round to his right towards backward point, Aaron Beard to do the fielding. 173 for 8, 77 to Maharaj.
You were saying how many balls get lost here. I trust the club have provided plenty of spare balls for the forthcoming 20 over competition, because a lot get lost in that competition.
They certainly do.
For those who don't know the Chelmsford layout, they're pretty big boundaries either side, but straight. They are short at both ends, but especially short at the Hayes Close end, the end from which Porter's bowling now.
Comes in again. 2 slips, Cook and Harmer. Keeps low, as many do at Chelmsford. Code plays the ball safely enough down to a mid-on, deep enough for the single to be taken. 174 for 8 at the end of the Porter over.
And we'll keep the strike. Just got the impression that Maharaj was almost reluctant to go for that single.
Yes.
I think he wanted to face Harmer, or whoever it might be. It probably will be Harmer now, since Code's on strike, but it might not have been otherwise.
Well, I think Maharaj probably saying to Code, get a single, will you? And
no, it's going to be Siddle.
Yeah, Siddle coming into the attack, and probably a good move, I think. You hesitate to think it's a good move ever to take Simon Harmer off, but Maharaj, having had the life against him, was basically scoring very, very freely indeed with the 6 hits, and I wouldn't put it past Maharaj in the form he's in to dish out similar treatment to Siddle after he did to Porter, but we'll see.
And Siddle of all people will want to get his own back, having dropped, well, a pretty simple catch as catches go on the boundary.
I trust that Peter Siddle and one of Essex's coaches will be straight out when this match is concluded, whenever that may be, and be practicing catching skiers as here comes Siddle. River end. Balls to Code. Extravagant backlift, and for a moment I thought it got through him, but no, he's driven it well enough down to Wesley at mid-on, no run.
Looks at the very bottom of his bat, a bit like a snooker player would look at the tip.
So Siddle, who began bowling from this river end, eventually switched to the Hayes close end and is now back at the river end. Comes in again with 2 slips, the only close fielders now. Bowls to Ben Code. Code has dabbed a short ball that gave him width down to third man, and so Maharaj will get his chance to see if he can hit the third member of the Essex bowling attack since lunch for 6. 175 for 8 with 6 to Code.
Yes. If he does, there's every possibility it could land in our laps. So
as one very nearly did a few minutes ago.
Indeed. Yes, it only dropped about 2 rows short of where Jonathan and Paul were. I hurtled round to take the catch and got there only about a half an hour too late.
Siddle's in and bowls to Maharaj. Good delivery. Kept out well. And Siddle nips across to do the fielding, but Maharaj, in addition to being a very good hitter of a cricket ball, does have a reasonable defensive technique as well. Just hearing Taunton, Somerset leading by 85 on first innings, 146 for 8 second dig, so they lead by 231 runs, 2 wickets remaining. Surrey are 37 for 1, having trailed Kent by 98 runs on... I'll start that again, I've got it in a muddle. There's a single to Maharaj as he runs it down to third man, 176 for 8, 78 to Maharaj. We'll start again. Kent led Surrey by 98 on first innings, and Surrey in their second innings are 37 for 1 and still trail Kent by 61 runs. Siddle about to reach the top of his run up. Elsewhere it looks as if Hampshire are getting close to demolishing Warwickshire by well, it won't be an innings, but by a large number of runs. 4 wickets left for Warwickshire, still trail by 248. Decent delivery here from Siddle, but it's a shot hit on the up here by Code, rather a good one. Took a good stop by Tenduscarter in the covers, or that could well have been 4.
Yes, it could, and as you say, Tenduscarter throwing himself around and belying his 39 years.
In Division 2, Durham 117 all out first innings. Leicester made 212 to lead by 95, but Durham hitting back, doing much better second time around, 351 for 5. Siddle in again. Code leaves the ball outside off stump, reaches Wheater on the second bounce. End of the over, 176 for 8, just to complete the second division scores. Middlesex trailing by 29 on first innings to Gloucestershire, 201 for 7 in the second, leading by 172. Northants 442, Lancashire 315 all out, but Northants in trouble second time around, 22 for 3. However, they lead by 149. And finally, Derbyshire 108, Worcestershire leading by 5, 113. Derbyshire then made 377, and Worcester in trouble at 16 for 2. They still need a further 357 to win.
Simon Harmer now going to bowl from the other end. Well, as we've been saying, or I've been certainly saying over the last few days, if there is variable bounce, it's usually from that end, in other words, to this end, where it can take place.
Now, the leg side boundary is now the very long boundary as Harmer comes in from the Hayes close end. So Maharaj this time plays a very good shot actually, uses the feet well, angles the bat in such a way as to drive it all along the ground down to long on, single, 177 for 8, and Maharaj to 79.
So it means that Ben Code has theoretically the rest of the over to play it out.
Tenduscarter dons the helmet, because for code we're going to have the usual field to Simon Harmer. Slip, leg slip, forward short leg and short mid-wicket. Harmer comes in, bowls, and the code defensively plays it up to Rishi Patel at mid-wicket. 176 for 8 remains the score, leading by 56 Yorkshire. Harmer, a lovely loop to this, and it was played a little uppishly but goes to ground fairly quickly, and no run.
Understandably, the good crowd are still staying here. They're not taking anything for granted. They've been watching Essex over the years. Oh,
my word, if that had just turned a fraction more, it would have cleaned code out there. He left it, and it's just slight turn, just goes by the off stump. Here he is again. Bowls to code, tosses this one up, and that's driven for 4, I think. Yep, long on can do nothing, it goes to long off. So Ben Code shows that he's no mug with the bat either, moves up to 10, and the score to 181 for 8, and Yorkshire now extend their lead to 61 as another landmark passes, because that is the 50 partnership.
Yeah, it was looking like a matter of course at 169 for 8. It's not now. Essex are going to have some work to do.
129 for 8 as it was. And
what did I say?
169 for 8.
Sorry, 129, yeah.
Very good take from Wheater here. Ball that turned sharply, and he moved very adroitly to his left. The over ends with no sign of an Essex breakthrough. It's resembling the partnership between Ryan Ten-Descarter and Aaron Beard yesterday when they put on 75 for the 9th wicket, same wicket.
Except they didn't offer a chance.
No, and also they were. It wasn't full of sixes. Ryan Ten-Descarter did hit one, but Maharaj is Yorkshire have got themselves not only a good spinner, but he's a darn useful batsman.
Certainly is. He's played 22 tests for South Africa for ODIs, with a batting average of only 18 in tests. Indeed, only 20.77 in first-class matches. So this boosts that considerably.
Siddle. River End begins a new over, bowls, very elegant shot from Maharaj here, and they're going to get at least 1 run as Ten-Descarter dives, but unavailingly, and the ball goes out into the deep cover area to be retrieved by Nick Brown. Boundary on the long side on that area away to our left, and it's 182 for 8, and Maharaj has moved along to 79.
Yep, just looking at his entry on Wikipedia, born 7th of February 1990, so he's 29 years of age.
And in fact, the main scoreboard has got stuck again. It's still saying 100. I think they're just correcting it now, unless it's blown completely, which I think it has. It's completely blank now.
Again.
And, well, the board to our right, which has been independent of the main one at time. Oh, it's peeled for a catch behind. It's not. It wrapped the pad and went through. Was caught by Wheater. Just missed hitting the stumps and didn't take the bat. And now the board to our right has also blanked out. So I think the score probably should be 181 for 8. That was what was up on the board away to our right before they brought it back to 177, and then it appeared to take umbrage to something, and now we've got a complete blackout on the screens here. Tony Choate will update us between overs as to what the score actually is, as the next ball's run down to third man, and that is a single. Well, there's a certain amount of doubt what the score actually is right now. It might be 182 for 8, it might be 178 for 8, and we'll wait and Dick and I will shut up at the end of the over when we start the announcement, hearing the announcement, so that we can establish exactly what the score is.
By which time I might have got it up on the screen anyway, but I may not. It appears to be a bit ponderous, but I know how it feels.
Siddle comes in again and bowls to Maharaj, and Maharaj has absolutely smashed this ball, but it won't go to the boundary because it's wonderfully well fielded by Ryan Ten-Descarter.
Yes, words like sink and kitchen come to mind with that shot.
Terrific bit of fielding. He makes nothing of it, but goodness me, that looked set to be a boundary. John Logan comes back again and says, hi JD, Paul and Dick. Paul, I do hope you enjoy your return to Ayr Racecourse. Ayr just happened to be the last of the 59 UK courses I visited to complete the set. As here's Siddle in bowls, and this ball's run down to third man. That'll be a single, and to the credit of Maharaj, who certainly moved into the 80s. The board to our right has come back, and we were pretty much on the mark thinking that it was round about 182 for 8, because it's now with that single. 183 for 8, with 80 to Maharaj and 11 to Code. In fact, it's 184 for 8. Sorry to interrupt you, but the main board has now also come back to life.
Maharaj's innings includes 7 fours and 5 sixes so far.
Been a terrific knock. And so the lead now is growing all the time, 64, and that's down leg side from Siddle. And still no sign of a breakthrough. There was that one hideous drop by Siddle from Skyer on the mid-wicket boundary off the bowling of Harmer from the blade of Maharaj. But apart from that, there's been no other chances in this partnership, albeit there was one that just failed to reach Cook from a Ben Code edge, first ball actually that he received. But Yorkshire are now beginning to go well into credit. 64 ahead. You'd feel another, if they could put on another 100 here for instance, it might be a very, very different end to the game. 81
Indeed.
to Maharaj, 11 to Code. They've put on 55 and it's 184 for 8.
Yep. Just done my good deed for the day. Helped a little spider out of the window, for which he was eternally grateful.
Harmer begins a new over from the ace close end, beautifully taken by Wheater. And there's no run. John Logan continues with his email. I was so excited to tell someone vis-a-vis his trip to Ayr that I approached Nick Luck, who was near the parade ring covering the meeting for Racing UK. And Harmer's in, bowls to Maharaj, edges it down deliberately. Be 2 runs here to third man. Aaron Beard comes round the boundary, 186 for 8. And Maharaj will move up to 83. John continues, he looked at me with a stare and I thought he was just thinking I was mad. However, he then said, just wait 1 minute, spoke to his director, and then 5 minutes later I was being interviewed live on Racing UK, much to my embarrassment. And slight delay here before Harmer will bowl again to Kesh Maharaj. Turns this round the corner. He's making it all look so easy, and he's employing a different stance on this one now. He's just working the runs around the ground rather than clobbering sixes. He gets another run, 84 to him, score up to 187 for 8, and John finishes off. Jonathan mentioned being at Headingley in 1981. Fast forward to 2019, Maharaj to be Bolton, Code to be Dilly, ? Just wishful thinking. Regards, John. Thank you very much indeed again, John.
Rain stopped play in the World Cup semi-final.
Harmer's in bowls, and the ball played up to back pad. Is that at Old Trafford? I think it is.
I'm not sure.
Because the other one's at Edgbaston, England on Thursday.
In which case it probably is.
Yeah. Harmer again. Bowls to Code. Again, forward defensive from Code, 187 for 8.
Yes, I concur with your view of Maharaj. It's almost as if he's deliberately changed his method. At first he was out there just having a bit of fun, see what I can do as we go down, and now he's thinking, well, hang on, if we play sensibly.
Ooh, and that's beaten everything. It was quite a bit of turn there. It's going to go through for 4 byes, and it's all suddenly going Yorkshire's way in a way it hasn't in the match previously. 191 for 8. That one did too much from the point of view of bowling. Code, wicketkeeper missed it as well and couldn't be blamed for that, and it goes straight down to the boundary. 191 for 8, and Yorkshire lead by 71 at the end of the over.
Yes, as I was saying, it looks, it might be wrong, but wouldn't be the first time, but it looks as if whereas Maharaj at first was just having a bit of fun trying to hit everything out of the ground because he thought his side were going down now anyway, he's looked at the scoreboard, he's looked at the situation, and maybe he's thinking, well, hang on, if we play sensibly we could build up a useful lead here, and we might trouble these Essex boys, which they may well do.
Lily comes back to us. Kesh Maharaj batting well. He's helping us get a lead. Looks like Yorkshire will still take defeat. We shall see. Not if this carries on a great deal longer. And the next ball is belted down to long on. Wasn't actually timed particularly well on that occasion by Maharaj, but perfectly safe. Wesley Fields. They get a single. 192 for 8.
No, got that far too high on the bat. But it brings Code on to strike.
And Code, who involved in that terrific partnership at Scarborough for the last wicket, that may well have won Yorkshire the match, and here he is now doing a similar thing. Basically, he's just quite willingly playing an anchor role as this is driven straight to Wesley at mid-on, knowing that the man at the other end is approaching 100 here now. Maharaj was dropped on 43 by Peter Siddle. He's now virtually doubled that, 85. Siddle walking back in somewhat contemplative mood. Man who put Maharaj down bowls, and Code has played this a little awkwardly but effectively past Gully and down to wide third man. They get a single and the score to 193 for 8.
By which you mean he dropped a catch off Maharaj's bat. He didn't shoot him.
What did I say?
You put him. He put him down.
Oh right. Yes, no, it wasn't a horse racing
no.
Put him down. As in he had to be put down very sadly.
You've gone in the fetlock, old chap.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, the screens were drawn around him.
Well, I'll come back to that.
The crowd covered their ears as here is Siddle in bowls. Oh, and that keeps very, very low, and it's not taken cleanly by Wheater, and it's not a lot of fun wicket keeping out there because a lot of balls are keeping low, and Wheater did take a nasty blow on the hand that he broke earlier in the season, a thumb that he broke there, and yesterday he was in quite a lot of pain just before the close, and he doesn't want balls like that sort of bounce just in front of him on the second bounce.
No.
Cooks at slip, and all of a sudden from a packed close field earlier in the day we've got people ringing the boundary, and Alistair Cook in glorious isolation there as Siddle bowls again and takes out Ben Code's off stump, and Kesh Maharaj is off stump, so he doesn't reach his 100, which would have been thoroughly deserved, and was a bit of a shooter, but it's also a warning to Essex, albeit the new ball probably will bounce more, but that kept very low. It was a shooter, and we were talking about putting down earlier in the over, and well, it's Maharaj who departs disconsolately because he played quite brilliantly, but he would have had his eye not only on 100 but seeing if he could actually help Yorkshire pull off a sensational victory, and who knows, he may yet well achieve that, but Essex very relieved to get his wicket, none more so than the man who's taken the wicket. Peter Siddle, who dropped him on 43, departs for 85, and I have to say, not only does he get a standing ovation from the local crowd here, but I'm delighted to see the player several times raise his bat to the applause. I have to say, I do think if a crowd can be bothered to give you a good round of applause, don't walk off and ignore them. You know, however much you may be disappointed that you're out, but we did see one or two Essex players walk off without raising the bat.
One or two of them always do with that.
Yeah, and I don't think you should be the judge in these matters. If someone laughs at one of your jokes, don't turn round and say, look, that wasn't funny.
No.
Play along with it, for goodness sake, and look as if you please.
Ultimately, it's the crowds that come to cricket matches who pay these players a very good wage. So, don't bite the hand that feeds. The least you can do is raise a bat just to sort of say thanks for your appreciation. I blame the coaches to a certain extent because, they shouldn't let these young players get away with it.
No, and indeed they should just... I don't think they'd have to say very much, actually. Just take the player to one side and say, look, you played ever so well, we're absolutely thrilled with how you've done. We weren't thrilled with the way you walked off and ignored the crowd who all wanted to tell you how well they thought you played. If you want to sulk, you can do that back in the dressing room.
Quite.
Don't sulk in public.
Well, that was the highest Yorkshire stand in either wicket and also the highest individual score by a batsman in either side.
Yes, indeed. You're quite right. Beating Tom Wesley's 81. Yeah, quite right. 85.
Good riff.
Superb knock from Kesh Maharaj there. And as I say, ironically, he's had more of an effect with the bat than the ball in the game in the final analysis, as Siddle's in and bowls to the Yorkshire's final man, who is Duane Olivier. And he's, not the worst you'd see with the bat either, as he plays the ball with a good straight bat, head over the ball down to mid-off. Jamie Porter, 193 for 9. Essex will need to make at least 74 for victory, and although I would expect them to make it as of now, it's not a given.
Now, Essex will have breathed a huge sigh of relief at the departure of Maharaj, because he could have made everything extremely embarrassing. He might have done yet, of course.
I'm making way for Jonathan.
Indeed you are. How time flies. So, yeah, there are 51 overs to go. Oh yes, of course, it's only, it's 20 to 3 I think. It was 20 to 4. God, I'm wishing my life away here. There's probably not much of it left to wish away anyway, so make the most of it. So, 193 for 9, effectively 73 for 9, as Harmer moves in and bowls, and that's just played defensively by Ben Code. Back to the bowler as Jonathan Reed joins us and plugs his phone into the mains. Got special electricity in this part of the world. It's super powered stuff. And that's pushed out into the covers for a single, and it brings Olivier onto strike. Well, you must have enjoyed that knock of Maharaj's.
Yeah, very much a positive.
Yeah.
Given what had gone before. It still hasn't stopped one young Essex fan talking to whoever it must have been. A female on the phone as I walked out the back.
And that gets the better of Olivier, yes, and she was saying?
She says, no, doll, I'll be home by tea. Be home for me. Be home by tea. The 50 for 8 effective, 50 for 8, you're going to hammer him.
Oh, well, I'll give her a due. Yeah, she obviously got the grasp of the game anyway. Obviously not a T20's attendee, most of whom wouldn't even know who's playing, let alone anything else. As long as the bar's open, that's all that matters. And
controversial.
Well, I don't know. It is actually, 'cause I can't find many people who disagree, particularly on a Friday evening. The point is, or one of the points is, that on a Friday evening, Chelmsford being where it is, it's a 35-minute, maybe 40-minute journey from London, and right the city of London. The train on the line outside the Greater Anglia from Chelmsford Station, that's a dot ball, goes into Liverpool Street Station, which is right in the middle of the city of London. And a great many people in Essex, Chelmsford, Southend, where I live, commute to town every day and make mega bucks in the city. Nobody's ever quite sure what, circulating the world's currencies or something. So they knock off work early on a Friday evening, they go to the pub, they have 2 or 3 pints up there, they get on the train, they come down here and carry on. So they're already in high spirits when they get off the train, and they carry on. It's just a jolly boys outing.
Well, yeah, I noted that coming in on the train at silly o'clock on Saturday night.
Yes. On a Saturday, yes. So it's Peter Siddle moving in again and bowls outside the leg stump. And of course, I mean, Essex don't have a monopoly of this sort of supporter. I mean, the Western Terraces, whatever their name now, were famously quite raucous, weren't they?
No, very quiet, very reserved.
Oh, really?
Bunch.
Oh, God.
The Western Terrace.
I've totally misread the situation.
I think you need to get that hearing tested again. Not the Western Terrace. Come on.
As that's deflected. I'm not sure if that's a bad bit. No, it's going to be a pad. You can see the signals is about to be given by umpire Paul Pollard to, I don't think we've mentioned the scorer, to Tony Choate and John Potter. Just have to look to see if it was Mr. or Ms, because quite a few counties now have a female scorer. I'm trying to think of the name of the lady at Somerset. Very charming. It's a name like Poppy. I don't think it is Poppy, but it's a sort of name like that. Charming lady. As Siddle moves in and bowls, and well, somehow manages to wrap the batsman on the pad, but still carry on its way to the keeper.
Yeah, he sort of dragged around the top of his pad or the bottom, or his trousers just near it, and then ended up going as if it was leaving the batsman, going away to the right of the wicketkeeper.
Yeah, it's odd.
Surely John Potter, you must know the great John. When scorers are mentioned, it's preceded by the great.
The
John
great.
Potter.
Oh, is it? I beg
Big
your
Hull
pardon.
FC rugby league fan, John.
Good for him.
From the East Yorkshire area.
as Siddle moves in again, bowls, and that's just played defensively, goes past the bowler, but Tom Wesley comes round and fields it. I know I've mentioned it once, but I'll mention it again. Tony Choate is one of the scorers at the World Cup final on Sunday rather. Even if England are one of the finalists.
Why, you're not allowed to score when you've got a vested interest?
Well, I suppose you are. He's scoring, but presumably therefore the score of 4. I don't know. No. And that's played very pleasantly for certainly 3. Maybe it's gaining pace on Porter, or is it? Yes, it just beat Porter to the scoreboard through extra cover by the main scoreboard, and that was one heck of a shot from Olivier. Everything in the right place. A shot that wouldn't be out of place if played by any of the batsmen above him.
And you now start to look at the board. 79 lead, 199 for 9. If the first innings we said wasn't a disaster at 208, then second time around at the moment almost matching that.
Yes.
Nor is this, but it's felt more so.
It has really, hasn't it? But because of that very disappointing start, inside half of the bat means the ball goes out to 12th man Ferozi Kushi again. Not quite sure for whom he's on, but he probably won't be on for long anyway. Probably a comfort break or something like that. End of the over. Yeah, as John said, 199 for 9. Arithmetic is fairly straightforward. Take 120 off that. The lead's 79. If a wicket goes immediately, Essex will need 80 to win, with a day and a session and a bit to do it.
And not only is it does it feel disappointing by comparison to the first because of what the early part of the innings, but also of course the bit that came in between, the 328
for
Essex.
Yes, I suppose showing that it is possible to score, but I suppose that also says a lot for home advantage. A team gets to know how its pitch plays. And that's just worked away on the onside. Harmer moves it again round the wicket, over the wicket, beg your pardon. Moves in bowls to Code, who just pushes it out to long on for a comfortably taken single. The applause greets the 200.
There's obviously some pressure on this last pair now. Leg slip, regulation slip, short leg, and the fact that Simon Harmer has got the ball in his hand as well. But it doesn't quite feel the same pressure as it did earlier in the innings when the batsmen were in.
No, quite.
Because it's the tail enders and we're not expecting a massive amount.
No, they're not. No, they won't get rebuked by any of their colleagues or the coaching staff if they get out playing a silly shot or cheaply, or both. As Harmer moves in and bowls to Olivier, who again plays pleasantly into the offside, and Aaron Beard fields it, and they go through for a comfortably taken single. 201 for 9. So the lead nudging up towards the 100 mark, and there's something psychologically significant about that. That's played away on the onside and fielded by Rishi Patel, mid-wicket, just near the Hessian mat covered strip that will presumably be used for, I suppose, the Warwickshire game. Well, maybe the first T20 is on Friday week. That's outside the off stump. And goes through to the keeper. I'd have thought the championship wicket is far more important, which has had to be prepared at relatively short notice, since it originally was going to be played away at Worcester, until it was decided that their pitch was so flooded, even by Worcestershire standards, that it couldn't be played there. So the home and away games have been switched, and the away game, when it's played later in the season, will now be back at Warwickshire headquarters, Edgbaston, much to the disappointment of many Essex supporters and media. So Siddle to continue. He'll be bowling to Olivier. Moves in now. Down the leg side, 4 runs of some denomination. Leg by...
off
the pad, according to Paul Pollard, and With all due respect, Jonathan, it's Mr. Pollard's decision that counts.
No, yeah, he's closer than I am.
Yes.
It just looked and sort of felt the way
Yeah,
it ran
agree.
away so quickly
I agree.
that he'd got maybe an inside edge on it.
Yeah, because usually a pad takes a lot more pace off the ball than a bat does. Obviously, because it's got that give, which is why they're pads. Anyway, moves the score on to 205 for 9. And that's just pushed out on the offside. It's only our version of the scoreboard which has disappeared. If I can find the remote control, we can soon reclaim it.
While you're doing that, a tweet in from Cow Corner Crikey, who says, loving your commentary. We all had to wonder, in inverted commas, how do you replace DC? And of course that's impossible. You're a very satisfying successor, in my humble opinion. Thank you for that, Cow Corner Crikey. I'll take that as a compliment. People really need to listen to that lunchtime backbeat over Paul Newton's commentary at cowcorner.org.
And that's down the leg side. Not really a very convincing appeal for caught behind. In fact, Wheater, who's normally very vociferous, as most keepers are, didn't even offer an appeal, only the bowler.
And Russell Pickup says, watching the stream on the beach in Cadiz. Very nice. Disappointing effort with the bat again. There are compensations, aren't there, for a performance that you're not entirely happy with, Russell, and being on the beach in Cadiz has got to be among them. So disappointing effort with the bat again, but great to see Fisher back. It is great to see Matthew Fisher back in the side and an asset with both bat and ball.
As that's just played down to third man for the single. So runs coming obviously at a far slower rate than when Maharaj was in, but fairly comfortable. Cadiz, well, it brings back memories of history lessons at school.
And in my relatively short time of getting to know some of the players, Matthew Fisher is just a sort of positive influence around the place. Smiles never far away.
Well, that's what you want. As next delivery, more runs here, probably 2 out into the covers. Yes, it's almost an agreed 2. It's not a phrase one often uses, but an agreed 2. It was played out to Nick Brown, who was fielding deep in the covers and also had to make a fair amount of ground to it, so it was always likely to be 2 and not a penny more, not a penny less. Yes, I think it's important. I think that's one of the reasons that so many people like, I count myself among them, some people enjoy watching the likes of the West Indies play, because they play with their heart on their sleeve, and of course anybody just come back to that. Oh, and that goes through. I'm not going to criticise the shot, because for a start it's not my job to criticise, but also it is a number 10 batsman, but it wasn't the most elegant of shots. But yeah, anybody who's been fortunate enough to play any sport at professional level, none of them go straight into it. They only start off because they play it for fun initially, and then discover whatever the sport might be, and then discover at different ages, maybe early teens, late teens. In some cases, some sports much younger than that even, they suddenly realise, hey, I'm quite good at this. I could make a living out of it. But initially, they always partook in it for They always participated in it, yes, for fun. I mean, I wonder what age. I'll come back to that in a moment. That's just played totally defensively. I wonder at what age. What was her name? Coco Gauff, the new American tennis sensation. I wonder at what age she realised that she was quite good at it, or had she been groomed by her parents right from the moment she was born almost? Don't know. That's just played back to Harmer.
Coco Gauff, apparently.
Is
Coco
it
Gauff.
Oh.
Way to go, Coco.
As Harmer moves in and bowls. Again, that's played defensively, pushed out. Yes, parents and their children's activity is always a moot point. Are you in danger of crossing that line between encouraging and being over pushy? It's a very narrow line, and that's just causes the batsman some inconvenience. In fact, Olivier looks at his right hand. It can't have inflicted too much pain. And your slow bowler is Harmer, who moves in now again and bowls to the tall South African. Just plays that totally defensively.
Talking of Gauff, Yorkshire might be might have been quite interested in having a Goff in their rank
yes.
on this day. Yes,
indeed. Is he going to join the commentary team in a second or two?
Oh no.
Oh. He of course played for Essex
in
his latter days, but best known of course for Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
Maiden over from Harmer, and the score's 208 for 9.
Yeah, 3 for 72 from 24 overs and 8 maidens for Simon Harmer. That's precisely 3 runs per over. And at the moment, sort of has a feel of, waiting for the judge to pass sentence, doesn't it? About the thing with a lead of 88.
In a way,
even a super optimist would say that on a wearing pitch, that's not enough. If they nudged it to say something like, if they could have a real good finish here and like 120 plus, then you might, if you took a couple of early wickets, I think you'd
Siddle moves in and
apply
bowls.
A bit of pressure.
Yeah, it's kept out, trickles down the offside, or back to the bowler who follows it to the offside.
But even at that, the team batting fourth on their own pitch, knowing how it plays and adapted to it well in the first innings, it's still fantasy land.
Well, one thing's for sure, if Essex do lose this game, I don't fancy doing the interview tomorrow evening, or whenever it would be, as Siddle moves in and bowls, and the batsman makes room for his shot and then plays it out into the covers.
If Essex lose this game, it'll probably be this evening.
Yes, I suppose it would. Yes, quite.
Given the few they need, they would, as I said earlier on, you never sort of want to write a team off.
No.
Because it is cricket and extraordinary things happen in this game, and that's one of the reasons why I love it.
That's the reason most of us do, I think, yes, the ups and downs. Jeff emails as Siddle bowls. Let's just play defensive with a high left elbow, quite correct. He says, I personally hate the new scoreboard. I think it's hard to see, especially when the sun is on it. I preferred the old one. What's your view? Well, we don't really have a view because we can hardly see it. It's away to our left, and we'd have to look through at least 6 layers of glass, bearing in mind they're all double glazed, and then the scaffolding which supports the facilities for our dim and distant cousins from Sky Television, so we don't really have a view of it. And that's just played down into the gully. We have a view of a sort of a photographic image of it, which I think all it is. They just stick a camera in front of it which projects onto or comes out on a screen over our right shoulder, so obviously that's not affected by the sun shining on it.
Not sure when this commentary box was built, or indeed when the double glazing was last renewed or installed in the first place.
I'm sure the answer's the same. As to when it was originally built, that's how old the double glazing is.
Yeah, we do have opening windows here, as in the normal variety that you have in your bedroom windows, opposed to the sliding ones of usual commentary boxes. That's
just pushed down on the offside. Oh yes, and they're really sophisticated because they both open outwards, or rather, well, from side to side, but also from top to bottom. At some stage, many times over the years, we've had it sort of hanging by one corner, and not trying to open it by both means, but finishing up doing that.
Just going to pop out and do a radio leads update.
Right, thanks Jonathan. It's exactly 3 o'clock. Siddle moves in and bowls to Olivier, who plays inside the line, I think, and it goes through to wicketkeeper Porter. Wicketkeeper Porter, where did I get that from? Wicketkeeper Wheater. A lot of Essex players, their last syllable is not as many as usual, but there's Wheater, Harmer, Porter, Tenduscarter. Doesn't look like it, but it is. End of the over, 209 for 9, a lead of 80. 81 for Essex to win, were they to take the next wicket without any further addition to the score. Essex.cricket at bbc.co.uk. If you care to email us. We are all here, the three of us. Jonathan's gone off to do his report. Paul's just gone off. In the old days we used to reckon it was to go and place a bet, but he's a reformed character these days. signed the pledge, or that particular pledge. 209 for 9. 6 to Olivier. Codes on 17. Main contributor, well, the biggest contributor indeed to the whole match was Maharaj, who made 85 before being bowled by Siddle. And again, Code makes room for the shot and just places bat on ball, and it goes out to Nick Brown, 2/3 of the way to the boundary at extra cover, or backward point rather. Yeah, backward point, nowhere near extra cover. Different acreage, almost a different county. And indeed, Paul Newton has returned, followed the trail of his rice that he left so he didn't get lost. And Porter moves in again. Arms are bustling. Bowls. And played well by Olivier, just dabbing it down in front of him. Trickles out in the offside, picked up by Dan Lawrence. No further addition to the score. Lawrence takes the ball rather than throws it to Porter, and then has a word. Not quite sure what Dan Lawrence knows about the art of seam bowling, but obviously a man of many talents. And Porter wanders off in the distance, duly educated even further, as he moves in now and bowls. And that's gone hard, high, and Rishi Patel can't quite get to it. He was never actually going to get there. He was the nearest to it. He was at long leg, and it was a total miscue. But no, it really bounced 2/3 of the way probably between the batsman and where the fielder started off. Another noisy little aeroplane goes by. It's probably the same noisy little aeroplane because it's going in exactly the opposite direction, taking the opposite route. And yeah, seems to have a naughty exhaust, a noisy exhaust even, or a naughty. And that is out, taken by Alistair Cook, who immediately trots off because he knows he's going to have to put the pads on. So the final batsman out is Code, caught for 18 by Alistair Cook, off the bowling of Jamie Porter, leaving Olivier not out 7. Yorkshire bowled out for 211, which means that Essex are going to need 92 to win, with 42 overs of today and all tomorrow in which to do it. Code caught Cook, bowled Porter for 18, and 211 all out. I'll go down the scorecard in a very short while once I've filled it in myself. So that's 18 to Code, who was the man out, 7 not out to Olivier, caught Cook. This is live writing, folks. I hope you're impressed. I'm even doing it in neat block capitals for your benefit specifically. Right, all signed, sealed and audited. 211 all out. The wickets today: Adam Lyde, LBW Porter for 14, Harry Brook, LBW Siddle for 12, Tattersall caught Lawrence bowled Harmer 14, Fisher, LBW bowled Harmer 16, Maharaj bowled Siddle for a magnificent 85, Patterson caught Cook bowled Porter 4, Code ditto, caught Cook bowled Porter 18, Olivier not out 7, quite a few extras. Doesn't come up on the board, but that's the difference, folks. Out for 211, having batted with a deficit of 120, so Essex will need 92 runs to win, with, as I say, all day tomorrow and more than 40 overs of today in which to do it. We won't go off air, provided somebody joins me, otherwise it's going to be terribly boring for listeners just to have to listen to me for 9 or 10 minutes, and Johnson's done his update, so he's coming back, although by that time it will probably be time for me to call it a day. 10 past. Yes, we came back at 22, so we do it in half-hour breaks. I don't know if Paul wants to well, instead of me, I meant Paul.
Not time yet.
Not time. Paul's working to rule. He's a good union man. He says it says half-hour stints in the small print, and not a second more. The union can convener on the case, quite rightly.
Typical teacher.
Well, yes, mind you, I can speak. I was a trade union convener for many years. So, yep, quite right. Stick to the terms and conditions of office of the job. So, well, it was a spirited recovery towards the bottom of the innings, but from the Essex point of view, one can't help but hope, and I'd have imagined from Yorkshire one can't help but fear that Essex shouldn't have too much trouble getting these 92 runs for victory.
You'd be pretty upset as an Essex supporter if there was too much trouble, but you know, the way things go in cricket, then it wouldn't entirely surprise you if, you know, Yorkshire probably a little bit disappointed with themselves, frustrated that they've got some sort of lead here, and had they batted better could have had something to put some real pressure on. They might still go out and take 5, maybe half a dozen wickets, who knows. You know, it could be one of those sort of games where it ends up being, God, if we'd have got another 30 runs. Sometimes in cricket it's the other way, isn't it? And they go out there deflated and it's 92 without loss.
Yes, that's right.
And nothing really surprises you too much, but we love the game because these strange things sometimes happen, and I certainly think they'll be out there giving it everything they've got. Matthew Fisher's getting loose with Paul Grayson. Yes. If they bowl well and nick out 2 or 3 early ones, it might just induce the collie wobbles and a bit of doubt in the minds of Essex batsmen. It is keeping low at both ends, so you wouldn't be totally without hope, or else there's no point in going out there on the field. You might as well just shake hands now and say, well, go on then, fellas, you have the points.
That's right. Yeah, we'll get on the coach. Yeah.
But it's a massive ask, isn't it?
Well, it should. Well,
victory is, I would say, unrealistic, but not impossible. Because it's cricket.
Far from it. John asks a hypothetical question specifically of me. Oh dear. You have 2 choices, Dick. You can commentate on the remaining Essex County Championship matches for this season, but Essex lose all the matches. Or you can commentate on every Essex T20 Friday night games at Chelmsford and Essex win all those. What would you choose? Dear oh law. That's a very good question. I don't want Essex. No, I mean, I'd far rather Essex won the championship, obviously, than the T20. So I suppose, given those choices, then I'd take the Friday night T20s, and Essex would win the championship games without me in attendance, or without me picking up a morsel to be in attendance. I could still come in and watch, presumably. And I mean, as I said for a long time, I've been watching and supporting Essex since I was 5 years of age. My father took me first of all to watch Essex in Chalkwell Park and South Church Park in Southend, and so I'm a really keen Essex supporter.
Was that in black and white?
It was indeed, yes, sepia. But I do like to think that although I'm a keen Essex supporter, especially when I'm commentating, I look at the thing totally objectively. I'm not a sort of biased. I wouldn't say I'm passionate about it. I'm enthusiastic but not passionate, and I can see the weaknesses in Essex, and indeed I describe the weaknesses in Essex. So I mean, some supporters of any club and any sport are just so blinkered and so one-eyed they lose all credibility. And I'd like to think I don't lose credibility at all, and we try desperately hard to be very, very objective in our commentary, to such an extent that the Essex Club themselves have often passed a few fairly stern words to us, saying, you were over harsh on the sides. So if anything, we're inclined to on the side of the opposition rather than of Essex. Speaking of which, both the opposition and Essex, Paul Grayson, who was previously head coach here and now batting coach at Yorkshire, is out there while Code bowls a few deliveries to him. And Paul Grayson now has a couple of words with the umpires as they walk out, probably saying, "Come on, give us a chance, mate, give us a chance." And probably not, actually. A man of great integrity. And he did say he'd come up and join us. I can't really see that happening now, and fully understandably so as well. And so the fielding side are out in the middle, well, almost in the middle. They're at sort of backward point at the moment, assuming the bowling was from the other end. They'll shortly be joined, presumably, by Nick Brown and Alistair Cook, who They only made 8 when they were parted in the first innings, and 92 is the magic score that Essex need. Now, there's no hurry whatever, but on the other hand, if they play it too cautiously, then you can get yourself into a position where you've forgotten how to play any other way. So when the bad ball comes along, if it does, then no doubt they'll be looking for the runs. But Essex ought to wrap up victory sometime later today, probably after tea, which is due in about half an hour's time. And indeed, the two batsmen do come out to the middle. Inevitably, it will be Nick Brown who takes the first delivery. Left-handed Nick Brown. Well, they're both left-handed. So Brown comes to this end, because the first over will be bowled from the far end, the Hayes close end. And now it is 3:10, so I think Paul Newton can't find any other excuse not to come to the microphone. And so therefore Jonathan will describe the first half hour or so, probably up to tea, of the Essex innings.
Davis dismissed. And that Sir Paul Newton needs to return to the chair. Just make sure you're all ship-shape and Bristol fashion for your next section, sir, or else you'll be on detention. And extra homework, no doubt, Mr. Davis. So, Matthew Fisher with just 90 runs to play with effectively, as this first one is going to be 4 off the legs of Nick Brown. In fact, yeah, literally off the legs of Nick Brown. It's 4-leg byes down below our commentary position, so that immediately reduces the ask. There's just a feeling of a little bit more of a buzz about the crowd now. They're on the home run, the home side. The home supporters just away to our right, and the members stand on the balcony here, anticipating victory, and probably going to be cheering most of the runs, particularly those that come from the bat. Here's Fisher in to Brown, who pushes forward to a decent delivery just wide of off stump.
Well,
there's no run.
Certainly was a decent delivery, and lights got poor. The floodlights are just coming on, and certainly in the short term I don't think this will be any joyride for Essex. I think Yorkshire will bowl pretty well, and if they can sort of get 3 wickets down fairly quickly, which is not impossible on this, then there will be considerable tension around the ground.
Fisher in to the left-handed Nick Brown then, who gets outside contact on it. Will Frayne makes a good diving stop from point. They've got Tom Kohler, Cadmore and Adam Lyth in place at first and second slip respectively. Harry Brooks gone in at gully, Frayne at point. Gary Balance just shining the ball as is ever in the covers. Dwan Olife's just caught the ball up at mid-off. Steve Patterson's at mid-on. Kesh Maharaj, after his fabulous knock, is at mid-wicket. And Ben Code somewhere out in the deep, unobservable at the moment. Maybe down at long leg to our right, but Fisher's shaping it in towards the left-hander, who solidly blocks. There's no run, but a couple of quick wickets here. Just saying to Dick, you know, as a batsman, if you're batting at 4, 5, 6 for Essex today, it's one of those no-win situations in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Particularly, you'd rather be sitting there watching from the side and cheering it on than have to contemplate going in, needing 30, 40, 50.
We've got the poorest light of the day. Yorkshire's very good opening attack, and the floodlights on.
Fisher in, wide of off stump, and holds its line this time. The batsman shoulders arms, no run. So Ben Cody, you'd expect to be taking the new ball at this river end, but with the light being not so good, of course, you know, will they turn to Olivier? Because then there might be some questions about the state of the conditions.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yorkshire wouldn't be too disappointed if they went off the field.
But on another hand, in some ways, while the conditions are like this, they'd quite like to be bowling.
So Fisher from the Hayes close end. In he comes past umpire Bailey. It's short of length, and Brown just offered a little flick of the bat at that. No danger this time though. It went straight through to Tattersall's gloves. It's the end of the first over of the Essex second innings then, and needing 88 now to win the game, therefore without loss.
And those 4 were leg byes, and that was not at all comfortably played by Brown in that over. He could so easily have got the edge to that last ball. His footwork was uncertain, and as I say, I think Yorkshire have got enough runs at the very least to give Essex a scare, and maybe even more than that if these particular conditions obtain. It's in fact going to be Steve Patterson who will take the new ball here, the skipper himself. He's got a ticklish decision in that it's no good him chucking everybody back in defensive positions, because Yorkshire have to take wickets, but on another hand, he doesn't want to leak too many runs too soon either. Personally, I'd go for it, because if he doesn't, he's going to lose anyway, and I'd stick a 3rd slip in to join the current 2 slips and a gully.
So, captain taking the responsibility. This the river end, pulls his shirt out, 17 on his back, and in he comes round the wicket to Sir Alistair Cook, who pushes forward into the offside where Gary balances round to do the fielding.
Don't know if Patterson has a particular record against Alistair Cook that makes him think, well, I'd like to have a go at him straight away. We shall see. He certainly keeps a very good line and length just outside off stump, which can be Alistair's weakness.
Kind of bowled against him a whole lot over the years, given the differences between the clubs in terms of divisions and Sir Alistair Cook's lengthy England career. You wouldn't have thought.
No, you'd think not. But just maybe a slight surprise that he's taken the new ball, but he does have a pretty decent record, I have to say, against Essex, and particularly, if I remember rightly, in that one-day game between the sides last year in which Yorkshire knocked Essex out of the 50-over competition. He bowled very tightly indeed, very successfully.
Here is again, ball number 2 was a dot, and this next one is the same, pushed up to Matthew Taylor, who's gone out there to field. So Ben Code may not be on the field at the moment, just checking around, as I couldn't see him in the last over. Looks as though he hasn't made it out at the start of the 2nd innings, so no wonder he's not opening the bowling.
Good point. Really is pretty indifferent light just at the moment.
So Patterson will turn again then to come in past umpire Paul Pollard around the wicket. It's straight, it's a nick, and it's 4 runs. It's gone through between first slip Tom Kohler-Cadmore diving across to his right, and Johnny Tattersall, who barely moved a muscle really to his left. And that was an opportunity to get Sir Alistair Cook nicked off without scoring, and it's gone for 4.
Well, I think it shows 2 things. First of all, that batting is going to be anything but a joyride out there, at least until such time as Essex have sort of knocked off 50 of the 92 runs required, and only then if they've lost no more than about 3 wickets at the time. And well, that should have been taken really. You have to put it down as a chance to either wicket-keeper or slip.
So in comes Patterson again, and Cook pushes into the offside, balance fields. He's had a life already then. The legendary England opening batsman, the highest run scorer in Test history from an England point of view. When you say that and you think about all the players who've played this great game, absolutely immense contribution to English cricket. To have his wicket for naught when you've only got 80 odd runs left to play with would have been something. They may still get him cheap, who knows, but he's off the mark with that 4, and he turns his next delivery to Maharaj at mid-wicket, no run. Wonder what conversation took place then between Johnny Tattersall and Tom Kohler-Cadmore. I wonder what sort of arrangement they have. Anybody who's fielded at slip, and it may not be the same in professional cricket as it is in club cricket, but you'll often have that word. I used to stand there at first slip a lot over the years, and depending who your keeper was.
No, I mean, it was both these 2 overs have been bang on the money from Yorkshire. Nick Brown could easily have nicked off in the first over, and Alistair Cook did nick but wasn't off because the ball went between wicketkeeper and slip without either getting a hand to the ball.
So Fisher to try again, coming in at Brown, who tries to retract the bat from playing at this. He's got it away past the cordon. Lyth gives chase and does well to reel it in, and they're going to get 2, but again, false looking stroke from Brown. And
well, he was trying to take the bat away from that, and it hit it inadvertently, and really, if you wanted the most unconvincing 10 runs you could ever see in cricket, this would be a good way of illustrating it, really, because the first 4 were leg byes when Brown was playing at a ball, and it went down quite close to the stumps, and then the nick off from Alistair Cook that should have been a catch, and now 2 from a bat that was trying to be taken out of the way.
Fisher in, and this time driven, and that is a proper cricket shot straight through the covers over to the Felsted School stand, and will be 4 runs from the bat of Nick Brown. So over pitching on this occasion, Matthew Fisher with a little bit of width about it as well. Enable the batsman to go right through with a good stroke. Just going back to that chance, Tom Kohler-Cadmore put one down last week at Scarborough. He's been pretty much faultless this season. Taken 28, I think it is now, maybe 29. And you've got to ask whose catch it was. I'd like to see it again as Fisher's in again and Brown shoulders arms. There's not a massive gap between keeper and slip. Was it Tattersall's to go for? He's standing in front. Or was it Kohler-Cadmore's? He was the man who got his hand to it, diving to his right, but it was diving towards the keeper.
Yeah, he may have thought that it was the keeper's originally. It's one of those tricky ones.
That's sometimes, sorry to interrupt you, but that's sometimes what I was referring to, the thing, isn't it, where you have a word because the keeper might say, if it goes that way, I'm going across you. And the last thing you want is the keeper offering his glove and then you stop. As this next delivery is nagging away at the off stump of Nick Brown, but he's got a thickish edge on it. It's gone through the cordon and it's going to be 4 more. So edgy in the main Essex so far.
Yeah, 18 for no wicket, and there was one superb shot in that, in sharp contrast to just about everything else in the 16 deliveries we've seen so far. And that was lovely, beautifully timed cover drive to the long boundary, 4 from the moment it left the bat, even though it had to travel nearly 100 yards to get there. But that was another streaky one between the 2 slips and the gully. As I say, for me, I would have at least an extra close fielder in the way of a 3rd slip in here.
Fisher from wide, angled in. So good use of the crease by Matthew Fisher, angled in towards Nick Brown, who plays it out to balance in the offside. And again, on this occasion, at least no run.
Matt Fisher's been a real plus, I think, for Yorkshire in this game. I think he's bowled very well, and in both innings he batted in a sensible way, trying to back for time rather than just a couple of boundaries and out sort of thing. He played his part before lumps today, so great for Yorkshire to have him back.
And here he is again. Good delivery to Brown, who just kicks off the pitch. He turns it off the hip. Maharaj will field it backward of square leg, and they'll get through for 1 more. So 19 without loss. He's on to 11, and Sir Alistair Cook on 4. And yes, it is great to see him back. As I say, a great lad. Smile never far from his face. I know he was very frustrated to have missed as many games as he has this season. Was on his way back and then got that thumb injury in the build-up to the first match of the season at Trent Bridge. And Yorkshire have been keen to wrap him in cotton wool, and just still only young. And I know he made his debut a few years ago now, 2015, as a 17-year-old. He's only played just about double figures in first-class cricketing terms, but they're keen not to overdo things with him at this stage because they want him to have a long and successful career with the club.
Well, that was an expensive over, but actually a very good one from Matt Fisher.
Patterson then in from this river end, wide of off stump, and Cook chases it again.
Brown
chases it again, and this time Tattersall across the face of Tom Kohler-Cadmore.
Yes,
to take the ball, strangely enough.
But I mean, again, it was a poor shot because there's no real foot movement there. Brown has, despite one glorious shot, his foot movement's been poor so far, and I don't think he's picking the ball up very early in the rather poor light, it has to be said.
Yeah, a bit of shape on it from Patterson, who's in again round the wicket. A good delivery from Steve Patterson leaves Brown through to Tattersall, just maybe held its line rather than left him, but of that sort.
Yes, I admire
length, really, wasn't it, that was the key?
I admire bowlers like Patterson because he's beaten Brown all ends up twice, but there's no histrionics, there's no staring back at the batsman telling him he's lucky. He just quietly turns on his heels and gets back to his mark again. I like to see that.
He was visibly disappointed after the Cook nick-off, though.
Definitely.
In he comes again. and this time the ball keeping a little bit on the low side, and Brown blocks it out to balance at cover and no run.
And the way he played that, Jonathan, just underlines my point. I don't think he's picking it up at all early, because he jabbed down on it late, and rather like someone who's peering through the dark and just about manages to see what's coming at the last moment.
And back in Yorkshire to take a few wickets here. You know, it's
don't blame you.
It is keeping a bit low.
These two could have gone long since. We've only just started.
Patterson in again, drifts out towards the edge of the crease. Good delivery once more. This one kicks as opposed to keeps low, so variable bounce. It is the 4th innings of the game. I know it's the 3rd day still, but you'd expect a bit of that now.
Well, Essex here have got 19 on the board, and it's probably fair to say that 4 apart from Brown, where he really did hit a beautiful shot, that the other 15 have come in extremely fortuitous circumstances from the Essex point of view, and that they need a further 73, and they won't be easy to come by.
Patterson again steps out as he bowls another good delivery, which really does leave batsman Nick Brown exaggerated movement off the seam there. And Patterson running in quite he looks as though he's just about to brush the right shoulder of umpire Paul Pollard, and then his last 3 or 4 strides take him right out towards the edge of the crease before he delivers it, and then the ball shapes back in towards the left-hander and then going away.
Boomerang type of effect, and Brown was nowhere near actually to edging that. It moved so far away from him.
Patterson in again, and this time the batsman is able to play a ball of fuller length. Patterson kicks the ground in disgust with something. I think possibly because he was getting the batsman to play a miss. Maybe feels a little bit unlucky that he's not managed to take a wicket there, and he should do as well, rightly so, because he's been right on the money and yet conceded a nick-off boundary for 4 and has yet to take a wicket. In fact, he needs, having taken 1 in the first innings, 2 more to bring up 400 in first-class cricket for himself, but it's not personal records that he plays the game for, is it? He wants to win the match.
Absolutely. John Logan comes back and says, ha, great stuff, Dick, thanks for the reply. Really enjoyed your commentary over the last 3 days. Thanks very much, John. We've thoroughly enjoyed your contributions.
In comes Fisher. Big appeal. Looked like it was going down to me on Sir Alistair Cook, who was back in the crease. Hit him low down.
Yeah, I think you're right, but some umpires might have given it. It was certainly worth a shout. Probably just have gone down. Matt Fisher's bowled very, very well here, as indeed as Steve Patterson. And you do have to say, even though we're only just into the 5th over, that how these two men are still there is a matter of speculation.
Fisher in again. Good delivery from Fisher, and again an unconvincing forward push. More than a push, really. He did go at the ball there, did Alistair Cook.
And if you're hearing a certain amount of what I was labelling as sludging earlier in the day, where people try to shout in anguish as though a batsman has been very fortunate to survive, well, actually, the shouts on this occasion have been thoroughly justified, because nearly every ball has had the batsman in extreme difficulty. And these are two very good players, I hasten to add, Cook and Brown. You know, it's not that they're playing badly, it's that the bowling's superb and very difficult to negotiate.
Fisher in again, and this is full of length and played nicely by Sir Alistair Cook out towards the boundary through mid-wicket. Patterson is giving chase and pulls it up a few inches short of the rope. We're back for a comfortable 2. So Cook, A.N. Cook on 2-6 and 21 without loss.
Well, that shows the mark of a high-quality batsman, because Cook has had all manner of difficulty facing each of these two bowlers, but when he finally got one, a leg stump half volley, he still had the presence of mind to put it almost to the boundary.
In comes Fisher again, and this time it's up there to drive outside off stump. But Cook hits it straight to balance. At cover once more, no run. The line is still a little bit on the gloomy side. Maybe it was a little bit worse when they began the innings a few overs ago.
Definitely. It's got better, hasn't it? You're quite right, and maybe that's contributed to the first time we've seen 2 consecutive deliveries played with a degree of confidence by Alistair Cook here.
And Cook again, ball shaping in towards Cook from Fisher. No run. Mark has mailed in. down there, or up there in Thetford. After an interview, he says he'd just seen a replay of the Alistair Cook edge, and I think Tattersall should have taken the chance. He says it was a lot closer to him than TKC. He hardly moved an inch, and being in front of the first slip, it was definitely his to take. That was my inclination as well.
Yeah, I agree.
But it just seemed that he made less movement, and Tom's dive, sort of a little bit of an afterthought, wasn't it? As Fisher is in and turned in front of square by Cook. Maharaj fields no run, end of the over. That's now 5 bowled in this Essex second innings. They're 21 without loss, needing 71 more to win. 37 overs remain in the day, so we've got another 5 to go until a tea break.
Yes, I agree with the emailer there. Was it Mark, did you say?
Yes, Mark.
Mark, yeah, I agree with you, because my view is that if the keeper knows he can reach a ball, even if it is going towards first slip, you know, for me, I go for it, because particularly on this pitch at Chelmsford, if you think of the catches that Alistair Cook took, he took 2 down by his ankles just before they went to ground, and the third one bounced just in front of him. So the ball drops quite quickly here, and that's why I think a keeper should go for something he knows he can reach, and yeah, I would put more of the blame on Tattersall's door.
Good to see this as well, because they don't have many runs to play with. They might as well go for broke, and they brought a third slip in, Harry Brook.
I think they should have had one in from the word go.
And Maharaj has been moved from mid-wicket across to cover. Gary Balance has gone to point, so an extra man in the cordon to bolster that up, so there is no long leg now. Patterson in, and Brown with an angled bat drops it down to gully, where Will Frayne does the fielding.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it's why, for all his greatness as an all-rounder, I didn't rate Ian Botham as a captain, because England were playing Pakistan once, and Pakistan wanted 79 or 80 to win, and he had a lot of people out on the boundary, and I thought, well, the only way you're going to get out of this, there was time left in the game, is to attack, you know, rather than no slips, have 4 or 5, and I just couldn't follow his captaincy at all.
So Patterson in again, good delivery once more, and almost appeals in his follow through. He thought that the batsman had got a little nick on it, just past being a feather. John Logan says Dick and all at BBC Essex. Dick has now confirmed he wants to commentate on every Chelmsford Friday night T20. Confirmed. Proviso: the commentary box door is impregnable to any inebriated fan.
There we are then.
So Patterson is into bowl from this river end once again. Brown on strike, waits patiently, and then plays solidly to Maharaj for no run. Why do we have to have this constant argument though between the two formats of the game? You know, I prefer watching this form of cricket, but I don't despise or hate or ridicule white ball cricket. There's still a heck of a lot of skill involved in that game, and at the end of the day, it's still cricket.
I agree with what you say there, but I think Dick's point was that the atmosphere can get a little bit too drunk, to put it in a word, here on a Friday night.
Okay, Patterson in. Oh, good delivery from Steve Patterson, shaping away from Brown, who, well, both batsmen, I guess, in their own way, still a little bit fortunate to be out there at the moment, but
yeah,
they are.
One of the tricky calculations, he's not grumbling about the T20, but what Dick means is there are times where you can, for instance, get people, bearing in mind we have our effects mic here, and some of the language can be so bad that you've literally got to turn the effects mic off, and still some of what goes across will be overheard. So hopefully the stewarding will be very good this year.
Patterson continuing, and again Brook tries to do the fielding at third slip there, but gets a hand on it. It was Brown who played the stroke, of course. A push forward and a thickish outside edge into the ground. Hands on head from Adam Lyth at second slip. So Yorkshire, it's that frustration of a game that, you know, got away from them yesterday. They're being a little bit disgruntled with life at the moment, and those chances, half chances, edges not quite going to hand. Going to ramp up the frustration unless they can pick up a wicket or two. And here's Patterson coming in. Nick this time, and gone. Sir Alistair Cook has gone, and he has been caught this time by Tom Kohler-Cadmore, and just as Paul called it, a low catch, just as Cook himself was taking at slip, has been taken by TKC. So Yorkshire have got in and among, and the wicket of England's highest ever run scorer, Sir Alistair Cook, has been taken by Steve Patterson. for 6 of 13 deliveries. Torrid time out there for the great man, and he walks off. They're not going to win it by 10.
They're not. I'd be very pleased to win it at all the way things are going. They should be able to get there. Another 70 needed. But I was just thinking before that delivery that if the breaks had gone Yorkshire's way, bearing in mind they missed a chance to get Cook straight away, they might have had Brown straight away, and the atmosphere would be very tense. Well, it's still pretty tense, even though the lights improved from the gloom of the opening deliveries. That was poor from Cook, actually, because he pushed at a ball where he should have been playing with soft hands at the very least, and the ball hit pretty firmly the edge and flew to slip. And as has been said, you know, it was a fairly regulation, if low catch, but from a man of his class, the ball he maybe didn't absolutely have to play at, but he should have taken the precaution of playing it with soft hands, whatever. He pushed quite hard at that, and that enabled the ball to carry. Had it been played with soft hands, there's no way it would have carried.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So noticeable that although Yorkshire did have a celebration of sorts, it was very, very muted there, and that again sort of underlines the general feeling. And while I wouldn't go as far as resignation yet, because they're professional cricketers and they've got skills to take wickets, certainly nothing to celebrate so far in the match, really, is there? Is that overall picture? And 22 for 1 with the opposition still needing just 70 to win.
Yes,
they're not going to celebrate too hard, but give it another 2 or 3 wickets and there might be a little bit of excitement.
Absolutely. Irritatingly, this new scoreboard at the ground doesn't tell me who the catcher was there.
It was Tom Kohler-Cadmore.
Tom Kohler-Cadmore, thank you very much.
Yeah, good low catch. So if that counts as a drop, the first one, and I suppose it technically has to go down as one. I think he's put just the 2 down this year. Pretty harsh on him to call that a chance when it was probably really Johnny Tattersall's. Maharaj now into the attack to replace Matthew Fisher at the Hayes close end, and his first ball was driven out to Harry Brook, who's been put into extra cover here. There are 3 men round the bat, so it's still an attacking field. Slip, leg slip and short leg, and Brown gets a big stride in and pushes forward, and there's no run. The new batsman is of course Tom Wesley, top scorer for Essex in the match so far with 81.
Well, it may be Maharaj's match after his brilliant 85.
Stranger things have happened. Brown pushing forward again. And how many times over the years have you seen teams chasing low totals and get the collie wobbles?
Oh, absolutely. And batting's not easy out there, particularly while the ball's new. I would have given Matt Fisher, I have to say, another over or 2.
Maharaj in again. Brown pushes forward. No run.
But the nerves will be jangling. A day where it looks as if Essex could tidy away Yorkshire's second innings without any need for nerves, and at worst, you know, they might have been chasing 30 or 40, but 92, Essex will feel they definitely ought to be able to make it. But there's enough going on out there, particularly while ever the ball's new, to suggest that if Yorkshire can make serious inroads, in other words, more than just 1 or 2, but 4 or 5, then you know, before Essex get to 50, then we've got a real humdinger of a finish on hand.
Maharaj again is bowling over the wicket, and an attempt at a sweep from Brown. There is Matthew Fisher positioned for the top edge sweep at 45 leg. Would have been hard to get a top edge on that because it was a relatively full delivery, but he missed it. Tattersall waits again behind the stumps as Maharaj comes in once more. This time Brown drops his bat on it and it runs to line on the floor at slip. It's the end of Maharaj's first over of this Essex second innings then. It was a maiden, so they remain 22 for 1.
3 overs to go till tea. I think Essex will be heaving a sigh of relief if they can get there with only 1 down. It really has been, as I think it was always going to be. I'm not surprised how difficult it's been for the Essex batsmen in this second innings, because although Yorkshire know that Essex 9 times out of 10 would get to 92. This could always be the 10th time, and I think Yorkshire emerged with the momentum. It's such an important factor, momentum. Had Yorkshire sort of at one point been, shall we say, 190 for 5 and eventually been out for the total they got 211, the momentum would have been with Essex, but it's gone the other way round. Yorkshire were at one point 129 for 8, leading only by 9, but in the end they set Essex 92, the momentum with Yorkshire, and in difficult batting conditions, a new ball, poor light, it was always going to be difficult, and so it has proved.
So it's going to be Patterson to continue from this river end of the ground then to the right-handed Wesley, who's able to shoulder arms to a ball wide of off stump. Good kick off the pitch from Patterson, who kicked the pitch in the previous over in frustration, but he has now taken the wicket of the great man Sir Alistair Cook for just 4. I'd probably go further than say 9 times out of 10 knocking off 92. You'd probably back yourself as a professional cricket side to knock off 92 many more times than 9 out of 10, wouldn't you? It'd be more like
how many do you want? 17?
Patterson in, and Wesley pushes back up the pitch, no run. There's going to be a couple of instances, but not many.
No, well, that's 9 times out of 10, really. Yeah, I mean, it's as I say, I think if Essex can bat long enough, then they'll make the runs all right. But if there's a real clatter of wickets, and there could have been actually already. So on the whole, if you were just shown the deliveries, you without knowing what the outcome was, you'd probably say, yeah, we'll take one dismissal from all those.
So Patterson again over the wicket to Wesley, who leaves that. That's not far from the top of off stump, and understandable anguish from Adam Lyth, who's good at the anguish bit, you've got to say, but definitely on this occasion that was pretty close as it went by the stumps of Tom Wesley.
Yeah, good reflection from Martin Levin, who says Maharaj did not complete his potential hat-trick, because of course he got the last 2 Essex wickets consecutively, so we've forgotten that. Thanks for pointing it out, Martin. First ball he didn't take a wicket, but if he had done it would have been a hat-trick.
Patterson in again and flicked off the legs. Nice shot this from Tom Wesley to get himself off the mark, just straying on leg stump there. Really, that was the issue for Patterson, and a man who's in good form and full of confidence from his first innings knock, not going to miss out on those.
No, it was a lovely shot, but what I would say is as well, he's new to the crease, he's hit across the line. I think it was going to hit leg stump, and if he missed it, then I think there'd have been a heck of an appeal, which I would have expected to have been upheld. So if you're good enough to get away with it, fair enough, and he was, and it was a lovely way to get off the mark. 26
for 1, 4 then for Wesley, 12 at the other end for Brown. Wesley driving Patterson this time through mid-off. It's gone past Matthew Taylor, Yorkshire's 12th man, who's trying to chase it down. Is he going to get there? I think he's made a good attempt, and he has done. Well done to Matthew Taylor. So he cuts out one of those runs that looked like they were going to come from the bat. Just a 3 for Wesley, who's on to 7.
Yeah, lovely batting from Wesley, and you know, some people have got very irritated with the fact he's made so many good starts only to get out, but he's still a class batsman, really, and I was pleased to see him sign a 2-year extension to his contract with Essex last week, because as much as some people may quibble that he doesn't get the runs he ought to do, the fact is he wouldn't be easy to replace with a player of similar calibre.
Harry Brooks gone in quite a close third slip with a helmet on here, standing almost across the face of Adam Lyth. There's almost a little bit of overlap there. Last ball was pushed into the offside by the left-handed Nick Brown at the end of Patterson's over. 29 for 1. Brown on 12, Wesley already on 7, and now 63 runs required for victory for Essex.
2 overs to go to tea. The light now is pretty decent, you know. We haven't seen the sun all day, so it's not sunny or anything like that, but you wouldn't say that it was really gloomy out there, but it certainly was when the Essex innings resumed, or started I should say, not resumed. And at that stage, if you'd now sort of give a mark to the light at the moment for 7 out of 10, which is very playable in my book, but at the time the innings started, I reckon I wouldn't have given it more than 5 out of 10.
I'd agree with that. Maharaj just making 1 or 2 minor adjustments to the field. The 3 men that were round the bat have now been reduced to 2. Those being Will Frayne at forward short leg and Adam Lythe at slip. Patterson having a chat with the South African left armour at the moment, because they may move a man back in now. Tom Kohler-Cadmore looks to be that man. He's got some shin pads on by the looks of things. Where are they going to place him? Well, he had a helmet in his hand, but Adam Lythe is now depositing that next to the other helmet. And Kohler-Cadmore's going to go in at second slip then, with the shinners on. So Maharaj in around the wicket to Wesley, who pushes it out square offside. Fisher round to field. So there's Fisher at point. Ollie Fears drops a little bit deeper, maybe 10 yards further back from the bat at cover. Gary Balance on the wicket ends at extra cover. As Maharaj is in again, and Wesley pushes it up to mid-on, where Harry Brook is round to field, and they get through for a single. So Brook creeps a little bit closer now to the left-handed Brown, who's back on strike, and Yorkshire opt for men in front of the bat, both to off and leg, and just the one slip in place to the left-hander, who works Maharaj out to mid-wicket, where in the deep Ollie Fairfield, and they get another run. So just starting to chip away now. The runs are just beginning to come a little more freely at 31 for 1, 61 needed.
You have to be brave to field as close at Silly Point as Kohler-Cadmore was in to the left-hander.
And Maharaj in to Wesley, who plays it up to Balance, no run. Yeah, and that he's also down on bended knee, as Will Frayne has been when he's been in similar positions in the last couple of matches. Not something you see that often. Maharaj in again, it's fuller of length. Wesley pushes up to Balance in the covers, no run.
Yes, I would say, I mean, Kohler-Cadmore, I don't think I've seen the Silly Point much closer. In fact, he'd have been on the cut strip if he'd taken one step forward.
And he's now taken a few steps forward and right on the bat end. And he nearly takes this one in the shins. He jumps over the top of it as Wesley cuts in front of square. And Ollie Fairfield, and they get one more. So 60 now is the requirement. 32 for 1 after 9 overs, and just 1 remain in this session before tea.
Reassuring start to date by Wesley, who's played by far the most assured start to his innings of the 3 batsmen that we've seen. Admittedly, he's come in when the light had improved, and it was in the first over each from Matt Fisher, wonderful over, and Steve Patterson, a very good one. That the ball just pretty much looked unplayable, and you felt it was going to do something nasty every delivery. It's not been quite as spiteful in the last 2 or 3 overs, which makes it all the more disappointing that Cook has gone. He's had a curious season. He's had 2 very, very good matches where he top scored in each innings, and nothing much else.
So Olivier dispatched to the deep square leg boundary, 2 slips in place. Patterson coming over the wicket here to Wesley, who's able to leave this next delivery. Gary Balance has noticeably been brought in closer in a catching position, probably about 15 metres from the bat at a short extra cover.
Yes, Cook against Kent here got 125 and 90 in the match. Fantastic match. Virtually won it on his own in terms of the batting anyway, and then 80 and 47 top score in each innings against Somerset.
Will Frayne in on the leg side position opposite Gary Balance as well, also catching, but he's not going to be brought into play here. Olivier is though running around the boundary edge, and he's done well there to prevent what looked like a boundary from the bat of Tom Wesley along the ground. He's reduced them to 2. So 58 now to win, 34 for 1. And if Yorkshire were inducing a bit of the collywobbles in this Essex top order early in the piece, then they're putting runs on the board, and it's soon going to get to that point, isn't it, where it looks then an impossible task for the fielding side.
Wesley's looked very confident so far.
A couple of quick wickets at this stage, as I say, might just bring in a bit of nerves for the home side. That one was wide of off stump. Don't forget, of course, there is no Ben Code out there for Yorkshire. Hasn't gone back out on the field
since
the
we don't know
Essex
why.
second innings began.
He didn't look to be in, or I didn't think so anyway, in any great discomfort when he was batting, but yes, he's not come out.
So Patterson in again from the river end. Solid block off the back foot this time by Wesley. No run.
So we've got 2 balls to the tea interval, after which there'll be 32 overs, and you'd think it would be over today with just 58, I say just, they may not be at all just easy runs to get, but 58 needed 32 overs.
Patterson again pushes off, and in increasingly improving light, bowls this next one to the right-handed Wesley, blocks it back up the pitch. Friend steps around to field. See if I can find out any news with regard to Ben Code.
We're running a little bit late. We've been incredibly punctual on the first 2 days, with play finishing at the worst about 8 minutes after 6 o'clock. Here tea will be taken, I guess, round about 12 or 13 minutes later than the usual 3:40 or the advertised 3:40.
Patterson in, and once again blocked by Wesley, this time up to mid-on where Maharaj fields, and that is tea. On the third day, 34-1 then Essex. They've lost the wicket of Sir Alistair Cook, who was caught by Tom Kohler-Cavmore at first slip off the bowling of Steve Patterson for 4 when the score was on 22. So a further 12 added. Nick Brown has ridden his luck, but he's still there. 13 not out from 31 deliveries, and Tom Wesley played a couple of nice shots. He's 11 not out from 16. Just that 1 wicket for Patterson, then for 14 from his 5 overs. 58 needed to win. We'll be back for more ball-by-ball coverage in what we expect, one way or another, to be the final session of this one, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating match. It's going to be very interesting right up to the end, and do rejoin us around about 12 minutes past 4. like David said, you know, he's not quite hitting the notes as he used to, but who's to grumble?
Historically, apparently.
Well, in a game like this of
Yeah,
hand-eye coordination, you would just be saying yourself, the eyes are slightly going.
Yes, I think so.
They've only got to go ever so slightly. It makes a world of difference.
And I've sometimes felt that about Temple Skeleton.
Yes.
By rain with New Zealand on 211 to 5 from 46.1 overs. At Southampton, Hampshire 539 and 171 for 8 declared. Warwickshire 307 and 217 for 6, requiring a further 187 runs with 4 wickets remaining. Taunton, Somerset 300.
Hello, I'm here if you want me.
And
If you don't want me, I won't be offended.
Nottinghamshire 241 and 31 for 2, requiring a further 224 runs to win with 8 wickets remaining. At the Oval, Surrey 271 and 90 for 1, Kent 369. So Surrey are trailing by 8 runs with 9 wickets remaining. At Grace Road, Leicester, Durham 117 and 413 for 6. Leicestershire 212. So Durham leading by 318 runs.
Don't think they want me.
At Northwood, where Middlesex are
Unless they're going to give me about 1.5 seconds queue.
244. Gloucestershire 201.
Yes. They might come to you, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
3, requiring a further 181 runs with 8 wickets remaining. At Northamptonshire 442 and 95 for 3, Lancashire 315. The Northamptonshire lead by 2 runs with 7 wickets remaining. And finally at Kidderminster, where Worcestershire are entertaining Derbyshire 108 and 377. Worcestershire
I'm with the Bratmeister at the weekend for 2 consecutive days.
5 for 5. Therefore requiring a further 308 runs with 5 wickets in hand.
They need 58 to win here at Essex, or Yorkshire need 9 wickets for what would be a sensational victory if they're able to pull it off. And they've certainly had some interest out there. Essex set out on their second innings needing just 92 to win the game after Yorkshire were shot out for 211 second time around. Maharaj at 85 being the most notable knock by some distance for Yorkshire in either of their innings in this game. And edges from both players, and 1 or 2 false strokes from Nick Ground and Sir Alistair Cook before Sir Alistair Cook went second time of asking for by Tom Kohler cover off the bowling Steve Patterson for 4. In the end they were 34 for 1 at tea. Nick Ground 13 not out. Tom
4,
Wesley not
made
out.
6, didn't he? Yeah.
58 to beat Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Sound like they're coming.
Does no, I know 4 o'clock is a bit later because sort of Dave does a little bit of introduction before the news, doesn't he? But
Yeah. They should have plugged you in by now.
yes. Who's it after tea? You and me, isn't it? You and I am in.
Right. The loo before I have to come back and do my 20 past 4 teas.
20 past the 4. Yorkshire are struggling here. They need to take 9 wickets for a 56 runs or less if they're going to win this remarkable game of cricket here at the Chelmsford.
Fantastic.
Sir Alistair, the clock was out there. After 4 runs, caught by Tom Kohler, Cam Lawrence firstly.
Oh dear, why can't we play Yorkshire every week?
We're all so old. I include myself in that. Anybody of youth who's listening will have a clue anywhere. Sadly not.
Well,
I don't think there'll be another commentator remotely
no.
like it.
No, a lot of county cricket supporters
I
are.
agree with that.
Well, you only have to look around to see the average age of county cricket supporters, though plenty of people know.
Yeah, commentators have become far more, now what's the word, homogenised now.
Yes.
It's not to the betterment of commentary.
Yeah, the lights are coming on. Yeah, fine. Thanks ever so much for letting us know. Okay, cheers. Right, cheers. Oh God, that's why I didn't do before 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I suppose it's the first thing we should have thought of. Good afternoon, everyone. We are back with you now, and just noticing that the line had dropped out during the tea interval there, but you haven't missed any play. And Essex resume in by far better light than they started in this innings, when it really was very close to them coming off, I would think, initially. And each ball of the first 3 or 4 overs was causing the batsmen no end of difficulty. But now we've actually got good lights and blue sky for the first time visible in the distance. And Essex are about to resume at 34 for 1. Kesh Maharaj is poised to bowl the first over after tea from the Hayes close end. Slow left arm over the wicket to the left-hander Nick Brown. 34 for 1, 58 needed further runs for Essex. Ooh, and just at the last minute there, Cook stepped away. The ball thankfully didn't go into the stumps. It would actually have been ruled out anyway, but at least Maharaj doesn't feel that he was done a dreadful injustice. Here, in fact, he was going to come in, and poor Pollard suddenly stuck a hand out in front of him. Now he will bowl to Nick Brown, and Brown has hit this one brilliantly fielded in the covers there, or otherwise I'm pretty sure that would have gone for 4. And that is Harry Brook, who deserves a bouquet for that stopper for certain 4 runs. Beautifully hit by Nick Brown. Maharaj bowls to him again, this time in defence, and grovelling at bat pad. That's not an insult, it's not a pejorative. Colin Cadmore does the fielding. He virtually starts on his knees at Silly Point because he's literally within handshaking distance of the batsman. Brown taken on the pad by the next ball. It was going down leg side. There's no appeal, just a gasp, and the score is 34 for 1.
It would never cross my mind that grovelling is an insult. I've made a career of it.
Well, indeed. I have to be honest. Before my knees packed up, I was inclined to grovel every now and then, when occasionally visited by a superior being. Here's Maharaj in, bowls, and this ball is stomped in the crease. Paul Newton here with Dick Davis, need I say.
I didn't realise there were any.
Well, I did use the word occasional advisedly and with a great degree of irony, as Maharaj is in, bowls, and this ball is chipped into the onside. There's no run, and Gary Ballance will retrieve. No addition to the score or to the wickets column in the first few balls after tea, of which there have been 5, all of them signified by a dot in the scorebook. And so to complete the over, as we have the best light of the day all of a sudden. Oh, and this one comes off an edge, mixture of bat and pad there, but I'm pretty certain he'd have been out if there'd been anyone to catch it at leg gully. There isn't, and there is a man deeper who eventually retrieves it. It's a maiden over, and a little alarm for Nick Brown there, who survives on 13. Tom Wesley has looked by far the most assured of the 3 batsmen we've seen for Essex this afternoon, and score remains 34 for 1, 58 needed.
Yes, and whilst it sounds terribly simple, 58 to win with 9 wickets in hand, I don't know, it's very interesting that when I wandered around the ground between innings, not between innings, during the tea, and listened to some of the members talking, they were all sort of very, very much on edge, and either literally or metaphorically biting their nails, and very few people have gone home. Nobody's taking this for granted at all. The Essex crowd have, remember the bad days as well as the good. And so no, they certainly don't think this is going to be a walk in the park, and it's not proving to be.
No, and as I was saying to Jonathan before tea, that knock of Maharaj gave the momentum in the match to Yorkshire. As Patterson's in, bowls to Wesley, goes through outside off stump. So although needing 92, you would expect Essex to win, but that doesn't mean to say that a late order innings of heroics from Maharaj wouldn't give Yorkshire a momentum that otherwise they thoroughly lacked. And
right.
Very well done to Maharaj obviously there, and those who, like Ben Code, who gave him good support at the other end. And
yes.
It really was a quite excellent effort as Patterson comes in. 2 slips and a short mid-wicket, plus a short extra. Keeps a bit low. Wesley digs it out, and still we don't have a run after tea, or indeed a wicket.
Well, yes, those last 2 wickets added 82 of the 92 that Essex needed when they started this innings.
Yes, it really did make a lot of difference. And well done to Maharaj, who's had, well, certainly with the bat, an outstanding game for a number 8. And
Yes,
it's not that he hasn't bowled quite well as well. He hasn't quite created the devastation that he might have hoped. Here is a leave. Patterson bowling to Wesley a long way outside off stump.
No, the three that he got out in the first Essex innings were, yes, the last three batsmen, 9, 10, 11, Siddlebeard, Porter. Yeah.
And the ever observant Martin Levitt emailed us, we'd forgotten that he took the last 2 Essex wickets with consecutive deliveries,
Yes.
and was actually on a hat-trick when he came
Yes,
into the
he
attack.
was.
But anyway, the hat-trick didn't actually eventuate. Here is Patterson again. Oh, that comes back a long way from outside off stump, but Wesley's alive to the danger. Digs it out to Will Frayne at short mid-wicket. Michael Biswell says, good afternoon, your studio is trying to contact you and they are live on air. So that was a reference to the fact that our line dropped out during the tea interval. Thank you very much for that, Michael. And Patterson again. River End, bowls to Wesley, defends, back down the pitch, still 34 for 1. But although there's not been a run since tea, there hasn't been that sense there was when the innings started of every ball threatening a wicket.
No, there hasn't really. And Alistair Cook looked unusually insecure, didn't he? If that's not heresy to say it.
Whether it is or not, it's true.
Yes.
In which case I'm all in favour of heresy, if I could say. Here is Patterson bowls, thick inside edge from Wesley, again goes to Will Frayne, the over ends, 34 for 1, 2 maidens since tea, 13 to Brown, 11 to Wesley. Martin Levin comes back again, he says, is it an age thing? Most of the normal cricketers have sensible short names, example Adam Lyde. However, the millennials seem to exhibit the fact that possibly their parents weren't married, as they create a double-barreled or hyphenated concoction that occupies a huge space on the back of their playing garb. And he goes on to say, racehorses' names are, I believe, restricted to 18, or is it 26 characters? You were right first time, it's 18, and that includes any gaps. So there are many names you could have, but if there's 3 or 4 words on the card, each gap means that counts as one character, but you can get over this by ramming the whole lot together.
Oh, yes, which they often do.
Yeah, they do, yeah. Gives commentators many a headache. I remember there was a horse called 0898, and the commentator who was totally flummoxed by this because it was spelled O-E-I-G-H-C consecutively, and he said, and 0898 is here is Maharaj, surrounded by close fielders. Bolster Brown plays it to one of them, Kohler Cadmore, sprinting back towards the bowler from Silly Point, 34 for 1 still. And if we have enough of these maidens, we'll be back tomorrow.
Well, we will.
Maharaj, slow left arm bowls, and Brown plays this ball out, enthusiastically stopped by Adam Lyde by Gary Balance at mid-wicket, and there's no run.
Yes, in keeping up the horse racing analogy, a maiden race is what, for a race of horses that have never won, is that right?
Correct. As Brown has
go on, make up your mind.
Just behind Gully, but there isn't a gully. Adam Lyde sprints back. They shan't we, shan't we, the two batsmen. They do actually get this score off 34 for 1. It could have been 34 for 2 if they'd had the conversation for much longer. They finally get there all right. 35 for 1 with a single, and Nick Brown moves to 14.
Oh, the lack of communication that so often ends with one or the other saying sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's one of those tricky ones because it just life was sort of catching it up all the time. Here is the next delivery from around the wicket from Maharaj. There is turn there, not a great deal of it, but it started well outside off stump and went further away from the slow left arm, and Wesley left it to Jonathan Tattersall. Maharaj again. Wesley gets a single to deep mid on. Score moves along to 36 for 1, and Wesley off the mark after tea moves up to 12.
And as regards racehorse names, presumably there's somebody there again. I presume, but maybe I shouldn't. The Jockey Club or somebody who decrees what is accepted. You can't just have a string of swear words, presumably, or could you?
No, they have a supposedly very strong vetting policy. As here's Brown, who's played it into the shin pads of the man at City Point, Tom Kohler-Cadmore. There's no run. The over ends, and 2 singles from it, 36 for 1, another 56 needed. And on that subject, Dick, one of the great attempts by those of a humorous disposition is to see whether they can come up with a name clever enough both to be extremely rude but to evade all attempts by those who vet.
Right.
To detect what the rudeness is. Unfortunately, because they would be rude, I can't give you the examples.
Of course not. No, I hope not.
Yeah.
No, not on air anyway.
But particularly in the old days, some of them duly got through the net, as it were.
Yes. I can remember in my former career when I was a computer programmer, which are now called coders for some reason. It's the same thing. We'll come back to that later.
And here is Patterson in and bowls. This ball is played into the offside and there is no run.
I worked for a large company whose customers, they gave a code number or name, a 4-digit, 4-letter abbreviation for all the customers, and it was sort of, it comprised, I can't remember exactly, maybe the first letter of the company name, the first letter of the first address line, the county, the town, something like that. Anyway, you get the gist. It just sort of took 4 letters. Which could, of course, sometimes generate very rude words. So within the computer program, we had to build a list. It was called a dirty word generator.
Patterson bowls. Wesley plays it straight to Will Frayne at short mid-wicket. We have an intriguing field here with 2 slips and then 2 fielders in the onside, and Will Frayne is at a sort of straighter of 2 fairly short mid-wickets. He's also the shorter of the 2, and Gary Balance is sort of just over his right shoulder, almost the same angle, but about 3 or 4 yards further away from the bat.
Yes.
It's also mid-on, just to the left of Will Frayne, but much deeper, and that's Kesh Maharaj. Will Frayne does the fielding again from Wesley. There's no run, 36 for 1.
Yes, so every time this 4-letter code was generated, then the program would go through this list which we'd compiled, and occasionally we'd have meetings to see if the list was up to date and if anybody wanted to add new words to it. It was all taken ever so seriously, but sometimes it was very, very funny.
And here Patterson comes in, bowls again, and keeps a bit low, played back down the pitch, no run.
And the chairman would say, anybody got any ideas for any more additions? And somebody would shout out a 4-letter word. You weren't quite sure who was making a suggestion for this list in the computer program, if it was just being rude.
And I don't know if you remember that advert on the telly featuring Martians laughing at the human race.
Yes.
Over, you take potatoes, you mash them into a million pieces. And what I think they might say, if I just interrupt, because Patterson's bowling again to Wesley, and Wesley drives, but straight to Harry Brook in the covers, there's no run. And they would be laughing in my notional advert here at the thought that humans invent words, but then make it very much taboo to use them.
Yes, that's right.
You know, I mean, if you're going to have a word, why not use it, they would think.
Yes, that was for Mash Get Smash, wasn't it?
It was.
These very strange little creatures. It was a very successful advert, wasn't it? Very successful advert indeed, as code moved in and bowls.
And this next ball is played into the cover.
We've dropped out again, have we?
Well,
no.
Doesn't look as if we have.
No. What does something suggest that we have?
Yeah.
Feed is down. Is that maybe the feed for the streaming?
Oh yeah, I suppose it could be back at the studio. We'll see. Will anyone please email us if you are hearing us loud and clear, so that we can establish that we're going out?
Everything looks okay this end, but we know we did drop out during the 4 o'clock tea break or lunch. Yeah, tea break.
That was a maiden over from Stuart Patterson, so nothing much to report because there was no hint of a wicket going down, but equally there was no hint of a run either, so it's still 36 for 1, still a further 56 are needed, and Kesh Maharaj will continue from the Hayes close end, and bowling initially to the left-handed Nick Brown. 4 men around the bat, plus wicket-keeper. Brown drops it to one of them, Kohler-Cadmore at silly point. Will Frayne is at forward short leg, Harry Brook is at backward short leg, and Adam Lyons is at a conventional slip.
Yes, often my wife serves as product control, and I'd have thought let us know.
Well, there's a bit of excitement to the next delivery. I don't think there was any bat in that. Brown came well forward and proffered the pad, and there is no run. The ball briefly was in the air, and Cadmore did what cricketers quite rightly do, tried to catch it, but couldn't get there anyway. And Brown doesn't really hit the next ball where he was intending. He was looking to place it through the wide open spaces, if you beat the infield, through the covers, but hit it instead more or less back to the bowler. Again, there's no run.
56 needed, so they've just whittled 2 off that target since tea.
Maharaj again. 5th over since tea. There won't be a run here either, as Brown just drops it to Cadmore at Silly Point.
So the excitement, or rather, no, not really excitement, the tension is maintained because, as I say, so many Essex supporters remember the bad old days.
We've got confirmation the feed has been down. What's happened to the commentary after tea?
Well, it's a good question.
Wonder if you
I'll
could just
I'll phone up and see what's happening.
Down the wicket comes Brown and clobbers this, if I could say it, for 6 over mid-wicket. And 42 for 1. That's appreciated by the crowd here. Hopefully at least some can hear it. But thank you to those of you who've emailed in. Yes, Stuart McCardle, who also emailed Jonathan. Feed is down. I hope I'm talking to somebody here.
Presumably not.
Michael Biswell says, I'm picking up all other stations but you. Something went wrong at tea time. Well, we've dialed again. Whether we should dial out and...
Hi, it's Dick at the cricket. Apparently we're not going out.
Maharaj is in, bowls to Brown, no run. And... oh, it's all right. He now says I can hear the Three Amigos loud and clear.
You're aware of it, yeah? Okay, well, no, apparently it's... well, it seems as if we're back anyway now, according to our colleague.
Yes, well, the score is
anyway, as long as you know about it.
42 for 1. Nick Brown, who hit Maharaj for 6 in that over, what you might call a dose of his own medicine, has moved on to 20. Maharaj, I refer there to his 5 sixes and a brilliant 85. But Essex now are approaching halfway to their 92 target. They need exactly 50 more. There are 12 to Nick Brown. I hope you can now hear us. Yes, Peter Moyes is saying loud and clear online in Rochford. Thank you ever so much. And apologies for the fact that we know we went down during the tea interval. We redialed, but for a while you weren't hearing us. So it's moved on from 34 for 1 to 42 for 1 as Patterson begins a new over to Wesley, who has lost his timing. He was in excellent nick before tea. He's just lost it since. But until that 6 from Nick Brown, there had only been a couple of singles since tea.
No, you know what I mean.
And certainly most people seem to think that they can hear us now. Yes, John Logan, I can hear the Three Amigos loud and clear. Thanks, John. Working through your emails here. Patterson's in, bowls, and Wesley has flicked it away for 4. 46 for 1, Essex halfway there with 1 wicket down. Wesley up to 16. Richard Vaughan says the feed is working on the stream on the Essex website and YouTube. Can still hear your lovely dulcet tones, says Richard. He's not talking specifically to me, but to all of the Three Amigos there. Although he's doing well if you can hear Jonathan's dulcet tones, because he ain't on at the moment, but he'll be back with us in a few minutes. Christopher Forsk says, and I'm enjoying watching it as well. Thank you very much. So there was a scare, but we appear to be over it, thanks to all of you who've helped us by, first of all, saying that you couldn't hear us, and now saying you can. Patterson's in and bowls, and ball played up to Will Frayne at the shorter of 2 short mid-wickets, and no shortage of shorties out there, it would seem. Wesley, the man on strike, doesn't add to his score there. Colin Sagers says, Colin in Great Wakering, hearing your commentary via Yorkshire CCTV. Thank you. And Martin Levin, sound and vision were okay until you queried it. Okay, well, hopefully we haven't suddenly made it not clear by querying it as the next ball's played into the offside. I do get the impression at times, Dick, that when some people can't hear us, for very legitimate reasons they can't, but others can, and we're not to know what the explanation is. We simply sit here and do our best to tell you what's going on.
I just phoned my wife, who assures me she hangs on our every word when she's not at work, and she's not working this week because she thought she'd have the week off prior to going to Worcester, but that's another story altogether.
Patterson's in and bowls to Wesley. Wesley defends.
And she just said, "Oh, I haven't really been bothering to listen since tea, so, so much for that." And when I got home, she'd have assured me she'd hung on to every word. It reminds me of that episode of Vicar of Dibley where they have the local radio station there, and I can't remember what his name is. The chap who takes the minutes goes on air and says, "I first discovered I was gay when I was 14 or something," and it turns out nobody was listening.
Patterson's in and bowls to Wesley, and Wesley clips this nicely off the pads and will pick up a run to the man on the mid-wicket boundary, and that takes the score to 47 for 1. Essex now over halfway to their target of 92. Yes, the sang-froid of your good lady wife, and sort of, I wasn't bothering to listen after tea.
Yeah.
Disgraceful, dear lady.
In this situation,
yes,
when they're only and exactly halfway to their target, no, they're not now. They're just into the second half of their chase. So I always think of it as they're coming out of the woods rather than still going into the woods at the moment. They've scored 47 of the 92 they require.
But how humbled we are, Sarah, that you were calmly with the match at fever point.
Yes, absolutely. Oh no.
Not bother to re-engage.
Oh dear.
We rely on you to tell us when you're not hearing us. Here is Maharaj, and I think he's got it here. It's gone down the far end of the ground to Hayes close end for 6, and 53 for 1, 23 to Wesley, and it does appear that batting has become very much easier after a slow start after tea. The light, while not quite as good as it was 10 minutes ago, is a whole lot better than it was when the innings started, and Essex now surely will get over the 99 more needed.
She texts me, says, "That's not what I said. I said it was on and there was dead air and I was waiting for you to come back from tea."
Well, in that case we absolve you of any criticism, as here's 4 more. And Wesley has played this, well, it may not quite go for 4, but they should be able to run 4. The ball has gone to within 6 inches of the boundary, but I think they thought it was going for 4 and rather dawdled through the first 2 runs, and Wesley has to settle for 3 there. But these runs are now clocking up nicely from an Essex point of view, as they've moved along to 54 for 1. Brown 20, Wesley 24, 38 more are needed.
Yes, I think I'm in the doghouse over making that comment public.
Well, you're used to being there. You should feel at home.
In that case, I must say how grateful we were to her when she A, cleaned the windows down at Sussex, and B, when she clambered all over the sight screen at Colchester to get the gear rigged up.
Two of the most outstanding events in the BBC Essex cricket history. As this next ball is just played defensively by Brown. It's Maharaj bowling from the Hayes close end, and we're just hearing from Paul Jocelyn. All up and running now, gents. Thanks very much, Paul.
Splendid, thank you.
Maharaj tosses this one up, and Brown drives, very well stopped at mid-off by Matt Taylor, substitute fieldsman, and Ben Coe does not come out for the Essex innings. Score remaining, and it's a sore calf, I'm told by Jonathan there. Thanks, Jonathan. That's why Code hasn't come out, and the world an appeal for a catch, but I think Cola Cadmore initially had it in his hand, and it went to ground subsequently, and not out, says umpire Paul Parlour. Whether it was necessarily off the bat, I'm not convinced. We're masked by the batsman himself there, so we can't really tell, not just by the batsman, but the whole entourage of close fielders, wicket-keeper in particular. As Brown plays the next ball to mid-wicket. Gary Balance, there's no run, the over ends. Essex need 92 to win, they're 54 for 1.
It was actually Rob Bailey who said it's not out.
Ah, well done. Which, I must just pick you up on something you said 67 minutes ago. You referred to someone who was a would-be member of the crowd going to see a match as an attendee. Well, to make them passive, it should have been attender, because if you attend a match, you are the person actively attending.
Yes.
1-1.
I agree entirely.
As I do with your correcting of me with the umpire there.
I've often wondered why, when a footballer is on loan to another club, he is referred to the loanee. Surely the loanee is the...
He is the person being loaned. The double E means it's a passive form.
As in employee.
Yeah. 2-1. There's nothing petty going on here. We're not pedantic folks. It's going to be Duan Olivier. I'd have thought, Dick, that we might have seen Olivier in the attack a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't know very much about him apart from what I've seen over the last couple of days and what I saw for what play there was up at Headingley a month or so ago. But I mean, he is very quick and very aggressive, but he's not always that accurate, is he? And when you're only defending fewer than 100, notice the use of fewer rather than less than.
Very good tool. Well, not to all, but a commendation mark.
Maybe he's not the ideal man to open them. No, I'm not that surprised, to be absolutely honest.
Anyway, it's Olivier up from the river end and bowls to Wesley, and Wesley perhaps underlining your very point because he bowls a stray delivery down leg side, 4 runs to the square leg boundary. I just felt a little earlier on that his pace might, in poor light as it was then, might have been useful, but that wasn't a good start, and Essex move along to 56 for 1. 60 for 1, I should say, and 30 to Wesley, who I have to say has played very well so far here. I should have added to Paul Jocelyn's all up and running now, gents. He's added, people are being dealt with! Exclamation mark. We like the sound of that, Paul, as long as we're not the people who are being dealt with.
No.
And the next ball's played back to the bowler, and the score remains 60 for 1.
As Gilbert and Sullivan would say, something involving boiling oil, I believe.
Oh, we've got more emails through. Carl Fuller says, hello, you had been off my airways from the start of the tea break until 4:31 p.m. During the tea interval, there was a young lady saying hello into the microphone several times whilst also having conversation with a chap in the commentary box before the sound disappeared altogether. Olivier's in bowls, and this ball, handsome square cut. It's virtually very well fielded by Matt Taylor, but the ball just slips out of his grasp and they scoot through for a single. Another lovely shot from Wesley, 31 for him, to him, 61 for 1 on the board. And just finishing off your email, Carl, before the sound disappeared altogether, it made having no sound at all for 20 minutes marginally more exciting. Nice email, thank you very much. We have marvellous emails throughout the game, and we thoroughly appreciate your efforts. There's 1 or 2 more to read, but here's D'Oliveira already on his way up from the river end. Still the floodlights on, but not really needed now. Bowls to Brown, a leave outside off stump. Martin Levin comes back. You might be interested in a recent WhatsApp message that my good friend Anil Shivdasani sent me recently. Text message at 3 p.m. Is it me or cricket? ? Reply at 11 p.m. You, of course. Thank you very much, Martin. And we also hear from Jeff Leonard. I always like to hear from Jeff, who's a Gloucestershire supporter.
He is. He'll be down there not too many weeks hence. I can't remember the date.
Yep. T20 game, yeah.
Indeed.
D'Olivier's in bowls. Oh, and that's hit Brown. Not on the helmet, I don't think. I think it was shoulder. He shows absolutely no reaction whatsoever. He's built for the rugby scrum, is Nick Brown. Tough lad. Jeff says, hello chaps, started listening to you just before tea as I couldn't bear to listen to another Gloucestershire collapse.
Oh dear.
During tea, a young lady came on air repeatedly saying hello and talking to another person about the stream being down and whether she should call somebody on their mobile. Almost amusing, but back again now. Thanks ever so much, Jeff. And D'Olivier's in bowls, and this ball goes over the head of Nick Brown and through to the keeper. End of the Olivier over, not D'Olivier over.
I wondered what you were getting at.
He played for Worcestershire. It's 61 for 1, 31 to Wesley, 20 to Brown, and a further 31 needed.
Several D'Oliveiras played for Worcestershire.
Indeed.
One of them still does. Brett, does he? Brett still.
Dare I say it, a Dolly mixture.
Indeed, you dare. Yes. There was obviously Basil D'Oliveira first of all, then Damien D'Oliveira, then Brett D'Oliveira.
Yeah, you've got them all.
Well, have I? That's what I'm wondering. Is there any more?
I don't think there's a fourth D'Oliveira. Not quite in the Cowdrey class yet.
No. So it's going to be Maharaj to continue from the Hayes close end with just, well, I say just, that trivialises it, 31 needed.
Here comes Maharaj. Bowls to Wesley, and his innings actually, as he plays the ball back to the bowler, has sort of quelled any thought or any nerves among the Essex supporters here, because he struck the ball beautifully from the word go. That's been a little bit of a masterly innings from him as he comes down. He's gone. He's gone.
I blame you.
Yeah, commentator's curse. He suddenly sort of premeditated, came down the wicket, and it just shows you, some would say, a microcosm of his career in some ways. He's been playing beautifully, no need to do that. Maharaj saw him coming, which is the danger of premeditating, dropped it in shorter, slightly quicker, and he didn't cover it at all with the pads or anything, and he departs, and suddenly those nerves will be jangling again, as Wesley literally has given himself away there, stumped. He'd been playing beautifully from the crease.
He had.
Don't know why he did it, I just don't know.
Neither do I. I just do not understand. As yeah, and however long Tattersall's career is, we hope it's a very long and successful one. I doubt that he'll have many easier stumpings than that. All he had to do was catch it cleanly, and he had all the time in the world to remove the bails.
And if there is now a collapse, and Maharaj really does, have the most extraordinary afternoon, 85 with the bat, and 8 for 32 with the ball, then Tom Wesley will be greatly to blame, to be honest, because you felt he was playing well enough, provided he didn't do anything silly, to have seen Essex over the finishing line, but he hasn't.
No, the trouble is that is a big proviso that, as regards hanging over the head of several of the Essex batsmen.
Yes, no, you're right, sort of Damocles' job.
Dan Lawrence comes to the crease.
And faces the first ball from Maharaj, and that's a misfield, and so they'll get a run they shouldn't have been allowed to get. 62 for 2 up on the board. Gary Ballance, the guilty party, I hesitate to say, but we have to tell you what's happening there. 20 to Brown, who now comes into strike, and Lawrence just off the mark. 30 more needed.
Yes, with it doesn't really matter how many overs of the day remaining, plenty. Yes, 23.
Bring Jonathan back at the end of this over.
And they could take more if they wanted to.
Maharaj over the wicket to the left-hander Brown, plays it back to the bowler, and Nick Brown's job now, Dick, having been very fortunate to survive the early overs, is to stay there.
Certainly is.
And Maharaj, and whatever happens now, he can at the very least feel that he's had a very good game for Yorkshire here, and I feel Matt Fisher also deserves a mention. A very good return from him. And this ball, I wondered if there was a little nibble at that from Brown. Tattersall dropped it. Now, there may not have been.
I don't think so,
personally. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but he still should have caught it. And yes, I thought Matt Fisher was taken off a little bit sooner than he should have been, as Brown here will pick up one, probably 2 runs. A chase back for Adam Lythe towards wideish third man. They duly get 2, and Brown moves to 22, and the score 64 for 2. That may well be the end of me, folks. You can all breathe a sigh of relief, because now only 28 further runs are needed. There are 20 to Nick Brown, or 22 rather to Nick Brown, 1 to Dan Lawrence. Commentary passes to Dick Davis, and sadly, for what may be the final time, we welcome back with his various aliases. Jonathan Doidge, Eddie Waring, Geoffrey Boycott, et al, et al.
Yep, thanks Paul very much. And 64 for 2, another 28 needed, 8 wickets in hand. And Dan Lawrence just takes guard off umpire Paul Pollard. You're listening to commentary via BBC Essex, and you are indeed listening now via BBC Essex and numerous Yorkshire stations, as Olivier continues to bowl from the river end, moves in and bowls to Lawrence, who gets behind it solidly, and it trickles out on the offside just in front of square. No addition to the score, which is 64 for 2, just 28 further runs required by Essex. Just.
I've got one for you here as well.
Yeah.
Your riposte to our co-commentator on the gaffs front.
Oh yes.
Yorkshire captain was bowling at this end some time ago, and if you wind back to the commentary, I think you'll find he referred to him as Stuart Patterson.
Did I really?
No. Oh, co-commentator.
He did. Oh,
I thought that might have been your riposte, but you may not have been in the box at the time.
Oh.
I hope you're wrong.
I'm definitely not.
And that's just played. Pushed out the onside. Oh, I shall certainly rewind through that.
Not that I want to get stuck in the middle of your petty
Yes, you
squabbles,
do.
but
Yes,
you
you
need,
do.
But you need to go back and check that, Dick, because you might have one back there, I think.
Have no fear, Jonathan. As soon as the game's over, I'll be there.
When are we getting you your dinner?
And, Olivier runs away from us, and more importantly towards Dan Lawrence, who plays pleasantly, but only straight back to the bowler. No addition to the score. Just looking at the table, if Essex win this, I'm determined to say if rather than when, that will be their 6th win of the season, and we'll take them up to, how many points have they got out of this one so far? They got
Okay, 22.
Thank you, 22, so 149 they'll have.
And Yorkshire won't.
Yorkshire won't, no. And that's played out on the onside, and no addition to the score. Yeah, Yorkshire had 106 coming into this. So, yeah, it looks as if it's, well, tempted to say still a 3-horse race. Some said Essex, Yorkshire. But still a long way to go. I mean, this is only the 9th game of 14, so there's 5 to come after.
Be a 2-horse race shortly, Dick, when Olivier's got 8 for 5.
Yes, that's right. Pushes that out to mid-on and goes through for a quick single. It hits, yep, hits the batsman, Nick Brown, and then bounces away. They could have taken a single, there was time, but the general agreement is that, although I think within the laws they could do that under a sort of gentleman's arrangement, they don't, because it was no fault of anybody's. And the score moves on to 65 for 2. Another 27 required if Essex had to bring off their 6th victory of the season. Going round the wicket now to the left-handed Brown, short of a length, and well, there's a run down towards the sycamore tree. I don't think that no, there's definitely about to be an indication from the umpire. Yes, purely buys, 2 pure buys, no, 1 pure buy down to find 3rd man.
Is that different to a leg buy and a buy? A pure buy?
A pure buy is, yes, unadulterated by the leg, the leg division.
It's a bit like pure maths, which I never quite understood.
I'm never quite sure what pure maths is.
No.
No, I'm never quite sure what any maths was, to be honest. But,
Sheer boredom.
yes. So the end of the over, 66 for 2, a further 26 required.
Yeah, pure maths. If you enjoy this, you need to get out more. You know?
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right there.
Well, okay then, let's go for 9 for 23 for Kesh Maharaj then.
Yep, okay. Well, that's certainly 4 more than he's conceded, as that's drilled out through extra cover and it crosses the boundary by the stand promoting the merits of Felsted Public School. Other public schools in the county are available, of course. Not too many, I can't think of many offhand. There's one at Brentwood. Bishop Stortford is just outside the county.
Are there many other public schools in the county from which a stand's name is taken?
No, I can say that with no fear of contradiction whatsoever. That's just played defensively. But Felsted School has produced a lot of good cricketers. Derek Pringle amongst them, and several others.
John Stevenson.
John Stevenson.
Gordon Barker.
Gordon Barker. He coached there. Yes, he learned his cricket in Yorkshire. Gordon Barker.
Got an echo, I think, in the back of the...
Oh, it's like that. He can't keep out of it, you know.
Did Stuart Patterson go there?
That's right. That's the fella. Yes. That's, Brown comes down the wicket, and most unusually, it's a massive great 6. Well, that's almost a collector's item. You don't very often see Nick Brown hit a 6. And that was a big 6. Admittedly, it's a small ground at each end, but that's certainly going to call for new balls, please, because that's deep into the back gardens of the houses in Hayes Close. It may even be into the kitchen. It may have landed in the sink and is currently being washed up. But yeah, that was not only a big hit, but most out of character.
Washed up in a sink?
Well, washing...
21st century, it'd land in a dishwasher, wouldn't it? Come on.
Look, in our house, our dishwasher is very old. I am the dishwasher. And it doesn't always work either.
Washing up in the sink.
Oh, I do that on a daily basis. Except when I'm away watching cricket. Ooh. See, well, I was going to say, you should see the state of my hands. Well, I wouldn't recommend looking. as Maharaj moves in again and bowls, and Nick Brown back to a more orthodox way or his way of accumulating runs, just nudges that round the corner for a single. So a mere 16 needed for victory now. So probably won't be too many opportunities to email anymore, so if you want to get them in pretty quickly. I'm not sure if we've read this one from Michael. As it's Wesley who comes down the wicket this time and picks up a single down to mid-on. Hello, welcome back, he says. Oh yes, that was quite a while ago. 16:35. So end of the over, and Essex, having had a few scares, or a couple of scares, particularly one early on in this innings, needing 92 to win, a 78-2, needing a further 14.
The Yorkshire are just lulling Essex into a false sense of security here, with still 12 runs to play with. I reckon the selection policy has got to be questioned. Not enough lads from Dewsbury in the side.
Why should I waste my time wheeling back through the commentary to hear one of Paul's numerous gaffes when all I really want to do is listen to some of your incredible impersonations? I'm sure you ought to have another parallel career to your cricket commentary or sports commentary generally. I'm sure you could stand up in pubs in Yorkshire and they'd pass the hat round. And that's pulled away, not entirely convincingly. It's going to get 4 runs over mid-wicket because it does run away slightly down the hill, but it wasn't exactly under control. It cleared the infield quite comfortably, but I think he'd intended to lay a bit more bat on ball than that.
Yeah, for Duane Olivier dropping the ball short, and it was the up and under from Lawrence for 4.
Up and under, yes, that was another famous phrase, wasn't it? Up and under an early bath. Probably numerous others. So Olivier moves in to bowl, just 10 required now by Essex. And 6 required now, as that's pulled round the corner for 4 down to fine leg. And well, the Essex crowd almost palpably are breathing more easily now. The tension has been lifted. Essex have had some bad days over the years, but they, I would say, are unlikely to lose 8 wickets in the process of trying to score 6 more runs. So it's been a good performance, a good all-round performance. We'll have a bit more of an analysis afterwards, maybe all 3 of us, as Olivier moves in and bowls, and that's chopped away, a misfield, a backward point accommodates the taking of a second. I think they're going to get 3. They are going to come back for 3 quite comfortably. And it's strange, you know, cricket never, the longer version of this game never ceases to fascinate. For a long time it really looked as if Essex were going to struggle to get these 92 runs, and then suddenly, I suppose, with the winning line in sight, then yeah, it does relieve the tension, but it suddenly looks easy now.
Well, you often see this, don't you? You get to a stage where it looks tricky, they get over a certain point, and then, I don't know if it's just the wind's knocked out of the sails of the fielding side,
Might
but yeah,
well
suddenly...
yeah, it could well be, of course, yes. And Olivier moves in and bowls. And
he's trying to take one with him, isn't he?
Yes.
Short ball.
That was a bouncer which not only went over the head of the batsman, but almost over the head of the keeper, and he got his gloves to it and parried it, but they still went through for 1 by. So Tattersall having a lot of work to do there. And yeah, I don't really like to say this, but I suppose the pressure to a certain extent was already relieved. But Olivier has really made it a little bit easier. He's now bowled 2.4 overs, 0 for 17. As he moves in now and bowls to Lawrence, who steps back and hits the winning runs down to wide third man for 4 runs. Essex win by 8 wickets. 94 for 2 is their final score, with Brown not out 33, Lawrence not out 18. And Essex have wrapped up an 8-wicket victory at, by my Mickey Mouse watch, 5-5 on the third day at 4:55 on day 3. And well, as I say, I always try to look at these sort of things totally objectively, but I would say Essex definitely deserved to win that game. They established a lead of 120 on first innings, and it's never down to just one phase of play, or very rarely one phase of play, but on reflection, Yorkshire will probably be kicking themselves that they didn't get more than 208 in the first innings, particularly since Essex went on and got a lead of 120. So yeah, Essex will go and celebrate, and well, they don't have to it's easier for them to remember the words of their victory song that rings out, because they've got quite used to it this season. Yorkshire will go up the M1, and no doubt have a bit of an inquest either on the way or beforehand.
Yorkshire clearly didn't get enough first time around. They felt they were 40 to 50 short. Had they been 40 or 50 on, it might have just put a little bit more pressure on in the minds of the Essex batsmen. They cite that decision of the not out for Ryan Tenduscarter when he was on naught as an issue in terms of, you know, that